She's taking a drink.
She's taking a drink of water.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, hi, welcome.
Thank you. So first for my report, I think today actually we had class presidents submit a letter to the students as part of a motivational message to students. So basically how it works is something you wish you knew going to that grade. So for example, senior class president would write a letter to the junior class and address them about what they wish they knew going into junior year. So we're working on that in collaboration with the PTA. Secondly, all classes have held their September meetings, and the topic of discussion in most of those meetings has been brainstorming different types of ways to kind of transform traditional activities into something we can do safely, either online or following social distancing requirements. We have been working on a drive-in movie initiative. And then even though we cannot hold it on campus because of COVID restrictions, we are looking into funding, again, working with the PTA, funding a drive-in event for seniors at the Monterey County Fairgrounds. Next week, we also have our finals. So students are beginning to prepare for that as our first, our even classes first semester finals. We've been doing a Tuesday trivia on the school Instagram, which has been immensely popular with the students so far. So we're hoping to continue that as well. And finally, we're getting into Q2 when leadership will finally be able to meet in person instead of our weekly online Zoom, not in person, but like meet regularly instead of just once a week on Mondays.
Wow, you guys are very busy.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's a great report. The drive-in movies, I went there, it's a lot of fun. You guys, that would be great. Thank you for sharing all of that. Christy?
Yes, I was invited today and I attended a classroom with Mrs. Filchick, and it was, her students were very interested in what it takes to make a trustee for a school board and how school boards operate, and are they in fact welcome at meetings and all kinds of stuff. So it was highly enjoyable as an educator, ex-educator, for me to go there and talk to the kids and to see them operating within the classroom and the learning taking place. And it was just great to be a part of that. So that was a highlight of my day until now, of course, with the board meeting.
Of course. John Paff?
I just wanted to thank the teachers and individuals sending in their experiences and their thoughts on both reopening and how things are going. It is good to see that, and frankly, it's very difficult to see other than emails right now. It's hard to communicate, and appreciate those who have sent stuff in. And I know tonight there'll be more on that from our admin team and continuing to solicit that information, and I'm appreciative of that. Dr. Porras, one of the things our student rep said is we can't hold a drive-in on the school site, and I think that might be true simply because there's no space. But in fact, there wouldn't be a restriction on that actually if we had a parking lot big enough, would there?
Well, that's the topic that we just have yet to finish discussing in regards to the facilities, in terms of what we want to allow and not allow on our campus, and the kind of the
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the concern more about any idea of it is just simply safety and being able to maintain the environment we need to maintain. So yeah, that would be our own, otherwise our own facility.
Yeah, we don't really have space like that, which is unfortunate, but okay. Thank you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you, John. Brian?
I'll keep it short, especially after what Gabby delivered, because you can't really compete with that. But I did want to thank everybody who's including the board on their communications to, just because it helps. We don't always get those, but you know, like the what Buck is sending out on a regular basis, and I'm thinking of what Sean Roach does too. It's like it's nice just to see those all the time, and as a reminder of what's going on. So thank you for that regular communication. I really appreciate seeing those.
John Malton?
Nothing from me tonight.
Okay, thank you. I just kind of want to ditto what John Paff and Brian said about just thank you for the communication. We do get a lot of stuff sometimes, but that's what we're here for, and we want to hear from you, and we want to know what's out there and what you're thinking. So continue to share that with us, please. Okay, superintendent report, Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I just one quick little item and defer to the rest of the agenda this evening. I just simply, again, want to reach out and say thank you to all of in particular, our classroom teachers for the remarkable work they're doing. I continue to have a chance to visit, sometimes very briefly and sometimes much longer. And sometimes I get roped into the lesson, which is also a lot of fun. And but truly doing amazing work under some tricky conditions. And I think that can't applaud them enough and put enough attention their way in regards to the work that they're doing. And I know that they're very busy planning and are probably hopefully this evening relaxing a little bit, but I know we have a lot of folks on in the audience tonight too. So I wanted to make sure I got that word out, and kudos to them. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're PGUSD staff comments, non-agenda items. If you have any, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Buck Brokeman.
Good evening, President Crandall and trustees. I just wanted to take this opportunity to invite everyone to a very special and fun event that is going to happen this Friday night at 6 o'clock. Forest Grove is going to have Family Art Night. And what's special about this Family Art Night is that it kind of runs in concert with the kickoff of our readathon. So children's book author Rowboat Watkins is going to lead us in kind of a guided drawing exercise for Family Art Night. He wrote a book called Most Marshmallows. And so he's going to start his presentation off by showing some of the props from that book, then lead us in that guided drawing, and then take some time to answer some questions. It's going to be very exciting. He's going to come to us live from his studio in New York City. So if you're free, we will send out the Zoom link tomorrow. And that is Family Art Night at Forest Grove, 6 o'clock p.m. via Zoom with Rowboat Watkins. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can I ask that you just send that to us?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Stephanie Lipp.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to announce that we'll be serving 5 days worth of breakfasts and lunches to cover fall break. And we'll be doing this next Friday from 12 to 1 o'clock at the same 3 locations, which is Robert Down, Pacific Grove High School, and Arkwright Court. So we'll be sending out communication early next week, as well as handing out menus with our distribution next week. So again, we'll be serving fall break meals. That's 5 days worth of meals for any children age 18 and under for free.
Great, thank you. Sean Keller.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sean Keller, proud principal of Robert Down Elementary School. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Bryce Gamble, Christine Gruber, Andrew Bradley, and Steve Ibrahim. And of course, my colleague, Mr. Rogerman, for helping collect all the pictures for our virtual parade that will occur Saturday at 10:30, and for helping make the fun little video that we released this week. So thank you so much to Bryce, Christine, and Andrew for collecting all those pictures. It was a huge, huge undertaking, and we're really proud of them.
Great. Is that open to the public?
Yes, the link, I believe we've shared it already. Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman, for sharing it. And it also is in today's Cedar Street Times. So it will be released on YouTube at 10:30 on Saturday morning.
Great.
I have to add that the promo video is fantastic. If you have 5 minutes, you really do have to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really great.
Great, thank you. Okay, there's no other hands. Billy? Ms. Mankey?
Ms. Crandall, President Crandall, I wanted to, on behalf of our district office, give a hearty thank you to Nina and Renee. They're custodians that typically work at our adult school, and they came to our district office. They did a complete deep cleaning of the district office. It's just sparkling, and everybody was so excited and so happy for the work they did. They really are like the A-team. They were amazing. So thank you to Renee and Nina.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other virtual or physical hands, we will move on to individuals desiring to address the board. Any item of interest to the public will be heard. Comments may be limited to 3 minutes with total time 20 minutes per agenda item. Public comment will also be allowed for each agenda item prior to board action. This meeting is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment, and the board may choose to direct items to administration for future agendas. Any public comment? I have a couple here. John Hua Kim.
Hello, thank you. And I was just wondering if we were going to discuss the distance learning tonight.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's our first action item, actually.
Ah, perfect. Okay. And I was wondering about a follow-up on YouTube. Is that also included in re-imaging of computers?
Well, again, we are limited on what we can respond in public comment time, but I think the details there will come later. We'll listen to the presentation and then go from there.
Great, thank you very much.
You can ask questions at that time as well.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. Jennifer McNary.
Hi, good evening. I have a question about one of the items on the consent agenda. It's consent item D, the contract for services with psych ed services for a board certified behavior analyst that begins on page 16. On the cover sheet, the fiscal impact for that contract is listed as a cost of up to $5,000. And then on page 17, under number 4, the actual contract, it lists a cost of up to $15,000. So I was just curious why those two numbers are different. Thank you.
You're welcome. We will be actually pulling that item, so hang on there and we'll be talking about that and not approving it in consent. So thank you for bringing that up. Paul Gutierrez.
Yes, I was just wondering if this is an opportunity to speak our piece on reopening, or does that come later?
That comes just a little bit later. We're going to have a consent agenda, and then we're on action items, and that's the first item. So
okay,
very soon. You're welcome. Okay, I'm seeing no other public. Okay, Amy Ramos.
Hi, I just wanted to ask that we have some of the future items that are listed. If we could set some dates for those items, that would be great. I see some of them have been on there for a while on a couple of the board agendas, and it would be great to see those have some dates. Thank you.
Thank you. We will discuss that also tonight. Okay. I'm just going to pause for a couple of seconds to make sure there's no other questions or actually public comment. Okay. Okay, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. As mentioned, we did have a request to by the board to pull consent item D. So, Dr. Porras, shall we put that towards the end, or what's your suggestion?
Well, the request to come to pull it, typically when we pull an item from consent, we move it to the bottom of action. So that would become action item H. However, the board can put that wherever you'd like in the order of action this evening.
Okay. Board, any feelings on this?
Let's put it at the end. Action item H. Yeah.
John?
Well, I think it's a short question and answer. I'd go first. So
I didn't hear what Christy had said. Did you say at the end or at the beginning?
Well, after John Paff's comment, just put it first.
Yeah,
Fine.
I think John's right. I think it's going to be okay.
Okay, do I have a motion then to approve
Also
the
moved.
consent agenda as amended?
Also move.
Seconded.
Okay, just to confirm for the record, we're pulling item D and making that action item H. And the rest of the consent agenda is approved. Motion made by Brian Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Walton.
If I could get the president to clarify what item
Yeah.
number it's going to be?
Yeah, thank you, John. I actually was just going to correct my summary. It was actually, the motion was to put it first. So we're going to make that action item A, and then our action item A is going to be A1. Can I do that?
Sure, it's fine.
Instead of changing the whole alphabet?
No worry,
Okay,
that's fine.
So
Yeah.
yes, thank you, John, for making sure I clarify that. So everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I have ayes, and then we were on John Walton.
Trustee Walton,
Aye.
student advisory,
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That passed 5-0. So now we are on a consent item. Action item, and that will be action item A, which is contract for services with site services for board certified behavior analyst. And I think Claire.
Right.
I believe that the item was, perhaps we can answer any specific questions to the items.
Yeah, I was going to ask the board, are there questions, Christy?
My question was that I had highlighted was exactly what was asked previously. Why on fiscal impact does it state 5,000 on one page and the next page is 15,000? So that's the part that I had been baffled about as well.
Okay, John Paff, anything?
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Brian,
No.
John Walton.
Well, the first question's been stated, so I look forward to that answer. If I could get a clear understanding, we've reviewed this contract several times before. And I thought, if my memory serves me correctly, I heard that when we filled our psychologist position, that we weren't going to need this contract anymore. So I'm curious why it's come back.
Okay. Director Davies, are you? There you are. Hello. Would you mind addressing the fiscal impact question?
I feel embarrassed because it's a mistake.
Just a typo. That's okay.
Thanks, Shannon, for laughing. Laugh with me, not at me. Yeah, I apologize, you guys. It's to start the year, we want to use $5,000 of our mental health funds. And last year we did ask for 15,000 to use, but since we're not actually in physical presence at school right now, I think we can start off with 5,000.
Okay, so the contract will be amended to say on number 4 of the contract, up to 5,000 and not up to 15,000.
Yes, I will take care of that.
Okay, great.
And then, Mr. Walton, this is a different contract. You are correct. We do have a contract with Psych Ed, and they assisted us all last year at Forest Grove with our special ed assessments. And they continue to pick up a few more assessments, helping us catch up with backlog. This is a separate contract. This is for the purpose of supporting our students that have behavioral issues as a manifestation of their disability. And so they have helped us we usually have 2 contracts a year with Psych Ed, and one is to help support us developing escalation cycle management plans and behavior support plans, providing consultation to classroom staff and families.
So we have 2 contracts is what I hear you say with this company?
Right, for 2 different purposes.
So is it the other contract then that we won't see again because we hired
Correct.
for that position?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll go to public comment if there's any additional public comment on this item. I think we answered the earlier question. So we'll just give a little pause for questions. Okay, I'm seeing no questions right away. Coming back to the board. Unless there's additional questions at this time, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
As amended. John, would you mind just adding as amended?
Motion to approve as amended to a $5,000 contract.
Thank you.
Seconded as amended.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion by John Paff, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall.
Aye.
Trustee Dawson.
Aye.
Trustee Paff.
Aye.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Walton.
Aye.
Student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you as well, and that passes 5-0. Okay, now we will go on to action item A.1, and that is our academic and operations reopening plans. You know, there's so much on this. I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Dr. Porras, and we'll just get into the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll try to make it as sequential as we possibly can. We have probably just about 10 minutes of presentation for you, and then we can open it up to dialogue. Just simply as an opening, if you recall, quite a while back in July, the board approved our tiered reopening plan with 3 different tiers, and looking at that time at the possibility of phasing in from pure distance learning through hybrid all the way to in-person. And we tried to speculate what dates might work best for that. And as part of that plan for the academic reopening, as well as the operational reopening, Tier 1 was slated to go from August 12th through October 19th, which was the end of the fall break. Clearly, we're not in a place right now, certainly not by the purple status of our county, nor the way the case counts are going. We're not in a place where we are going to be able to fully open all of our TK through 12 programs, as long as we remain in that purple phase, and it doesn't look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. So we're bringing this item forward as the board had requested back in July to review if we needed to change those dates to accommodate what was happening currently. So all of that being said, what we're going to request of the board is that we essentially move the Tier 1 date through January, which was the Tier 2 date, January 5th. That's after the winter break, for us to remain in distance learning. Right now, that's based just simply on the data that we have from the county that we simply cannot open up our school districts to do that. So that's the sort of the crux of the conversation that we're going to have this evening. We're really going to focus mostly on the academic reopening plan, the operational plan, which are 2 separate documents on the website. We continue to work with that. The Director Kelly has been doing a fantastic job of procuring the materials that we need, along with Nurse Powley, to get us ready for just simply the operations of having students back on campus. So that continues to move forward at a good clip. Obviously, what would change is if we were to begin having a larger cohorts of students onto campus, that certainly would change the pacing of physical reopening. I do want to note as I got started, and I'm going to invite the site principals to talk briefly in just a moment. Currently, right now, we have several counties in the state that are making moves from purple to red, and we announced that this morning. We are not one of those counties, but there are counties around the state that are looking at phased reopenings based on that movement. I will say that one of them in particular doesn't intend to work back into hybrid, even though they're now into the red tier until January. And I did have a chance to talk with some of my colleagues in Santa Cruz City Schools, since they're looking at a better recovery rate right now than we are, and they're looking at possibly moving into red tiers. 3 of the large districts there are not looking to come back either, even though they'd be in the proper tier status until January. So just in and around the county area, it looks like folks are still planning towards that January time, and we'll give you the reasons why we're thinking that in just a moment. Last but not least, I do want to make mention, because it will come up, Yes, the county is continuing to accept applications for the waiver. This is the waiver that allows elementary TK through 6 programs to operate, even though the county is in a purple tier. There's an application process that goes with it, and applications will be accepted by the county health department when the 14-day average numbers of new cases drop below 200 cases per 100,000 residents. That threshold is waffling quite a bit now, as we're seeing an increase in cases hitting Monterey again. I do want to note, however, of the 6 districts in the county, Monterey County, that have currently written up waivers, only 1 at this stage of the game has been accepted, has been submitted and accepted to the California Department of Public Health, who has to approve those as well. The rest are still on hold. So there seems to be a little bit of a delay in the county direction as well. And I'm not sure why that is, but every Tuesday we get the go ahead or not go ahead based on the numbers from the state. So what I'd like to do this evening is walk you through sort of the reasons that the administration is recommending us to take the safest route possible for our students and our staff in maintaining a distance learning profile. We wanted to give a little bit of a snapshot on what currently is happening at our school sites, in particular through our site principals. And the themes that you'll see are taking a look at what our current attendance and participation is looking like, the support classes that are currently being offered in distance learning, what our response to intervention is looking like as we intervene for those students that most need it. And then probably some of the counseling work that we're doing and how that counseling work is shaking out for our students. I know that we are also taking a look at beginning the 3rd level that the state allows us to do, and that is the targeted specialized support services for our most needy students. And we are intending to begin opening in-person testing assessment work with our English language learners and our special needs students first, as we begin to moderate ourselves into that specialized instruction zone. So I'm going to ask if Coordinator Mejia could go ahead and turn on the slideshow, and our elementary principals are going to start us off. This won't take a lot of time. We're going to go through it pretty quickly, but this will give you a snapshot of what we're looking at, and then we will post this presentation onto the website tomorrow. So starting with the elementary sites, I want to hand it over to Principal Rogeman and Principal Keller.
Thank you very much, Dr. Porras and members of the school board. It's a pleasure to come here tonight and to give a little bit of an update of where we are with the distance learning, and also talk about some of the challenges ahead as we look toward a hybrid program or some form of bringing students back to our sites. If Mr. Mejia can go to the next slide, please. What we want to do is to talk a little bit about some of our distance learning strengths. And it's not some kind of pie in the sky that we don't recognize all of the challenges that have gone along with distance learning, because that list is long and there are many. Trust me, in contact with our teachers and with our parents, we know that there have been numerous obstacles that people have been working so hard to overcome every day to make distance learning happen. But a couple of the things that have emerged as some positives through distance learning is that our attendance rates for our school have increased. And we'll see that in the next table when we look at some of the data. One of the things that's been really impressive with our teachers as we've gone from classroom to classroom is, despite being in a virtual format, our teachers are doing an amazing job of building a community within their classroom. One of the high points of my day is during the morning when I get to drop in on some of our classes and I see that sense of community being built every day. And I'm very proud of our teachers. I'm very proud of our parents that are getting their students to these classes so that they too can be part of that community building that is going on, which reflects the partnership that we have with our parents. Parents, we know that there have been some real intense challenges with regard to distance learning. And as the principal of Forest Grove, one of the things that I'm so proud of is that you have steadfastly supported the teachers that are working so hard to put the distance learning together for you and your families. With all of its flaws, with all of its blemishes, one of the things that a healthy partnership has is those words of support when times are going well, and then some of that feedback for change when times are not going as well. And so we really appreciate both that have been coming from our parents. And finally, the alignment between our elementary schools has never been stronger than it has been as we've gone through distance learning. During the summer, we set forth a plan for Forest Grove and for Robert Down to be aligned across the grade levels with the distance learning work that they were going to assign and the distance learning work that was going to occur. So on those Mondays, when families are doing the asynchronous work with their children across the grade levels at Robert Down and Forest Grove, there is amazing behind the scenes work going on, and our colleagues have worked closer together this year than they ever have before. Slide, please. Board members, here you can take a look at a little bit of our attendance data. One of the things that we wanted to include were those absences that can be attributed to technical issues. So far this year at Forest Grove, we have a total of 57 that have been logged in our system where students have not been able to attend because there was some kind of a technical issue that occurred either on the home end or the school end, or just because Google was down. So we wanted to make sure that we had that marked as part of our data. You will see that right now we are running about a percentage or two in August as well as September ahead of what we normally do. Now, that's not a huge number. That equates to about 8 to 10 students across our school. But I think that one of the things that it shows is that people are taking distance learning very, very seriously on both sides, on the side of the school as well as the side of the parents. We also put in attendance data for 1920 and 1819 for October, November, and December, because we wanted to show the typical decline that we get as the flu season approaches. So once again, you see that like a 4% drop at our school represents really about another 16 students. And so our attendance has been pretty steady even through the flu season, although you do see that we experience a drop. And with the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Keller.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ruggeman. So board, you can see that Robert Down's numbers are pretty much the same the last few years, and that our numbers for this year are up a little bit as they are at Forest Grove. At the top, you can see that so far with the logins that our families have made, we have 21 students through our ticket, our tech ticket that have, but I think we've just had a little bit more than that, only because I know a lot of parents have reached out to me through texting to me and also through email directly to teachers. So we're just trying to get them to focus more on the tech tickets. But I think we've had a little bit more, but that's what we have through our ticket system at this point. Go ahead to the next slide, Mr. Mejia. We also wanted to provide you the interventions that we're providing and give you a little bit of an update. We have 3 tiers. First tier would be teacher intervention that is provided to all students. And that's with our teachers just making that home contact daily. And I just want to say and give a shout out to our teachers. I'm very proud of them because in the classrooms that I've visited, they're always doing a feelings check or a social emotional learning check for every lesson. And I really want to thank them for doing that because we really want to have a pulse on our students and how they're doing during distance learning. For tier 2, that would be our office attendance clerks and also our tech staff through the tech tickets, as I mentioned before. And the office will make a phone call home or send an email. And we're also logging those contacts just to make sure that we understand what supports we are providing to all our families. And then if we have a little bit more worry, we're holding some student study teams or SST meetings at the administration level. And I know that our counselors are also involved with those meetings for social emotional support. And for our counselors, again, they are doing just outstanding. So thank you to Sonda and thank you to Zoe for all the incredible work you're doing so far this year. Go ahead and click into our next slide, Mr. Mejia. And speaking of our outstanding counselors, here are the referrals for both primary and intermediate levels at both Forest Grove and Robert Down. These are just the new referrals. The counselors are still working with students that they were working with previously last year. And they definitely are, the at-risk students and students in need are on their radar, both at the elementary schools and at the middle school. But they're also supporting parents, and they're having parent coffees or coffee with the counselors. And they're also having toolbox trainings for our parents. And lastly, they are providing group and individual counseling, but their group counseling is moving and grooving for students who are new to PG or PGUSD, caring circles that occur within the classroom settings, and small group counselings for focused social emotional needs for students. And again, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Rogeman. You can go ahead and forward, Mr. Mejia.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Board members, one of the things that we want to do is to go over some of the challenges that we'll face if we go to a hybrid system or in-person instruction. And I think that one of the first things that we need to talk about is that school is going to look completely different than it did before March 13th when we got the word that we were going to go into shelter in place. All of the county safety guidelines are going to be followed. And so our cohorts of students are going to be smaller. We're going to have to practice the social distancing and also wear PPE throughout the day. And also, I think that we are going to be limiting the access to campus that the adults are going to have. That means that drop-off time, parents are going to drive up and they will hand over the students for the school day at the entry to the school. And then the staff members will accompany the younger students to their classrooms for school, and the older students will make their way to their own classrooms. But we won't have recess at the start of the day to begin. And so there's going to take some time for us to teach all of our students what it means to be a student in this time of COVID-19. There's going to be an adjustment period there, not only for the students, but also for the staff as we learn how to educate our students face-to-face while we have these safety protocols in place. A couple of the other things that we're going to need to know before we can really build an effective plan for our students to come back to school is we're going to need to have accurate staffing data. I know that we have a survey plan that's going to go out to staff very soon. So we have an accurate idea of how many of our staff members are going to be available for that face-to-face instruction. The next survey that will go out soon after that is going to be a survey to collect data from families so that we know just how many of them are going to choose in-person instruction and how many of our families are going to choose the distance learning option. The current hybrid plan that we built in the summer would be unsustainable if we went to a hybrid program. One of the things that we've learned during distance learning is just the amount of time and effort it takes to build both synchronous and asynchronous assignments. To expect a teacher to teach a group of students live all day while simultaneously providing asynchronous material for students to work on that is also going to last an entire instructional day is not a tenable plan for our hybrid program. So we're going to have to meet and rebuild that hybrid program into something that fits the data that we get from both of those surveys. Most hybrid plans are also going to call for new class lists, which is going to result in the re-rostering of students. This is one of the reasons why it makes sense for us to consider going face-to-face with our instruction after the winter break. That will represent basically a half a year of instruction, and it would create a good, clean break in the calendar year for us to do re-rostering of students and build those new class lists. Also, it'll give us time to ensure that all of our safety protocols and procedures are in place. And then we can also solidify all of the protocols that we'll need to take whenever a staff member or a student becomes sick. With that, I think we can hand things over to the middle school.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees. I'm Sean Roach, the proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. We're ready for our next slide. So there's going to be some commonalities in what we discussed with you today. And one of the positive ones is our attendance rates have increased. I don't want to dig too deeply into there, but initially that was kind of a concern of mine. And pleasantly, I found out that it's quite the reverse. I have to tell you, our teacher and staff collaboration is extremely robust. We discuss students' concern on an hourly basis, and it's something with our use of technology, which is actually a little bit quicker than it normally would in a brick and mortar. So I think that's definitely a positive and something we can carry forth. Also, I love seeing that our staff is really sharing best practice. It's wonderful to see them reaching out to one another for what's working with tech, but also the application of really solid in the class procedures and how to translate those into a technical environment. So they're doing a wonderful job of sharing those best practices. And of course, we want that to be shared school-wide, and we do that as best we can. There's very strong communication between families and staff. Again, I think our easy access to technology really affords us the opportunity in real time to communicate with families and really let them know that we'd like to speak to them, we'd like to intervene. And so that's a pleasant experience. And finally, the last one is really kind of how you got to look at this entire thing. Necessity is the mother invention, and we are going to be better for this experience. There's a lot that we've learned from this that when we come out the other side, we are definitely going to be better for it. So it's a little bit of a baptism by fire, but like I said, I think we'll come out better for it. Next slide, please. Here's a little look at the attendance data. Again, I was a little nervous to begin with, but as you can see, our attendance data is stellar. I'll let you go ahead and look at that and memorize those numbers. There'll be a brief quiz at the end of this presentation. Go ahead, Mr. Mejia, to the next slide, please. So our supports and interventions, PGMS has done a tiered response to intervention. We've done that for a couple of years. And so we're very fortunate that that translates very well to what we're doing now. And so we are continuing that process. This year, we've devised a student support request process where teachers at a moment can fill out a form that kind of holds their concerns. And that form automatically routes it to the right response team. It's a very wonderful thing. It also yields quite a bit of data for us to look at and see if there's any systems that need changing or systems that are working well. So it's a wonderful data tool. We really enhanced our level 2 support. So that's after the teachers have made that initial contact. We have a wonderful team of instructional assistants who do their own instruction in small group on their own, but we've enlisted them to make contacts with families and kind of have a caseload of families where they can understand and try and mitigate issues with families. I think it's a good thing too, because if you have one point of contact at a school, I think you're more apt to utilize that point of contact. So each of the instructional assistants will have kind of like a caseload, I guess you would call them. And that data that they yield from that will be shared with the staff. Another level of support that we have here at PGMS. So our response teams include our social emotional response teams, which would involve our counselors and the administrators. Our MIA, or our missing in action kids, why aren't they engaging? That would be with our level 2 support, so we would understand that. And our technology goes to our administrators and Mr. Fong, who's our tech guru on site here. Our teacher and our instructional assistants have office hours. Our teachers hold 90 minutes weekly. We did a parent survey and we are almost done with our student survey. But one of the nuggets that we found from our teacher survey, or I'm sorry, our parent survey, is that some of the parents were unaware of office hours and how to utilize that. And so that became the subject of one of my parent communiques to families. Excuse me. So they understand what it's about, what it looks like, and how to utilize that. Finally, some of our support classes, these are the ones that are offered online. They're also offered when we're back on site, our Learning Center. One of the things we did add this year was a Learning Center 504. And it is really made from the IEP model. So for special education students that have a Learning Center, we wanted to provide one for our 504 students so that they would have that same opportunity for small group instruction, reteach, kind of an advisory model where that teacher goes and communicates with the teachers of that student and really helps kind of pave the way. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Mr. Mejia. Our counselors, wow, working their butts off. Sorry, I didn't mean to say butts. They're working their tails off right now. And we all are. So there's a new to the peninsula group. This is something that stemmed from a couple of new parents that we had who were concerned how their kid can meet somebody and kind of create that social connection. And so we acted on it immediately, and that those folks have been, that group has been increasing quite a bit. In addition to that, we have 4 additional move-in and groove-in groups, and that's kind of a drop-in, come in, hang out. It's nice to have that opportunity because as things pop up, you want to be able to talk to somebody about it. Well, that's your avenue. Lunch clubs to fulfill student interests. Any non-academic possibility for students to interact is absolutely perfect. Yours truly is going to be the host of 2 of these. So don't try to call me at lunch on Mondays or Fridays. So Mondays, we're going to talk about video games. I don't know how, but the kids found out that I do play video games and they are ripper and ready to talk to me about that. And then on Friday at lunch, I will be dorking out as we talk about comics. Spider-Man versus Batman, I think there's one clear winner, but we don't have time this evening to kind of continue that. So anything, again, to kind of talk a little bit about non-academic things where kids kind of get to talk about what's fun for them and some of the stuff they're missing. We wanted to provide that opportunity. Character Strong, thank goodness that we took this last year and really created a sound foundation. Our staff is amazing and really loves, this is very interesting too, because this is a non-academic endeavor for our staff. And so they really enjoy that. It's almost a parental relationship sometimes where we're talking a little bit about how to react to things, you know, how to take time and think about your reactions, how to deal with one another, how to deal with your frustration during this time. It's absolutely essential for this kind of thing to continue, for students to be able to express, process, and deal with their frustrations. As I mentioned earlier, we conducted a parent survey, which was very positive, and look forward to kind of sharing more of that. And we're about, I would say, 70% done with our student survey at this point. And the data that has been yielded from that is priceless. And so we look forward to kind of going through those results as a staff to begin Q2 to kind of inform what we need to do. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our student support request system proactively meets students' needs. So as soon as one teacher sees something that is a little bit eerie or wonky or something like that, they're able to communicate with an entire team dedicated to intervening. And we do it in a very quick rather than a reactive manner. Coffee with the counselors is an amazing time for families and students to drop in and get a little bit of help and guidance. And oftentimes that results in our individual student and parent counseling, which we also offer. Again, I cannot say enough about the work that these ladies do. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges about going hybrid, and a lot of this is going to be the same as the elementary schools. We have an absolute necessity for accurate staffing levels. That's really going to drive the feasibility of which way we decide to go with that. There will be instructional loss. I mean, if we were to transition to this during the Q2, I guarantee that there would be loss of instruction for that transition. Both the hybrid models, one with you're familiar with and one that you requested, would result in less synchronous time, less face-to-face time. So our current model has 160 synchronous minutes, that's face-to-face. So that's 2/3 of our instructional time is done face-to-face. And that again is a result of parent input and some of the meetings that we held. In our proposed models, the one that I proposed in the spring, the pod model has 120 minutes of synchronous work. The other 120 would be asynchronous. And in a content-specific content delivery model, we would have 80 minutes of synchronous and 160 minutes, sorry, I had to do my math real quick, 160 minutes of asynchronous time. And there's a little bit of a concern that the asynchronous load change would be difficult for some of our students. There would be a possible re-rostering of students based again on the staffing levels and some of the family data that we would receive. So some of those connections that students have made at this point may change. Teachers who would be asked to do concurrent instruction, so live and DL. At this point, that is unattainable. I see those as 2 lanes and would be unattainable at this point. And again, we need the family data. We are looking at old data, and that data was a snapshot in time. And so I'd very much like to see that data to make the most informed decision that I possibly can make. And that data will, of course, inform our check-in procedures, our lunch protocols, and the like. And so one thing I think that the management team has done a wonderful job of is to begin those conversations, to talk to nutrition, to talk to facilities, and kind of rally everybody for this inevitability and kind of start that conversation. So that is it from the middle school. I will let you go to PG High School.
Thank you. Lito Garcia, proud principal, Pacific Grove High School and Pacific Grove Community High School. On behalf of myself and Mr. Steinbach, assistant principal, I want to share that we are extremely proud of the educators at PGHS and PGCHS during this unprecedented time in our community, state, nation, and world. The dedication, work ethic, and high level of integrity of our teachers, counselors, and support staff has been nothing short of amazing. The COVID-19 pandemic is affecting entire communities, states, and the world, and is leading us really down a journey that none of us thought we would experience in our lifetime. Our communities and families have experienced physical, emotional, health, and financial strains. The high levels of stress and trauma experienced during this time have highlighted the resiliency, strength, and power of ourselves and the importance of our school communities. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our teachers, our staff, to thank our students, and to thank our families. It is working together in an imperfect situation, and we are making the best of it. And it is only together that we can do that. So I want to thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, next slide, please. So some of the highlights that I would like to point out, and I'm not going to read all of them. I'm going to highlight some of the highlights. Being a transfer student myself, I do want to acknowledge that our transfer students are doing well academically. I think that goes to show what a strong community we have here at PG High and a welcoming community. Office hours are being taken advantage of by our students, although I feel we can still continue to advertise that to our families more, but we are very pleased with the turnout that we are getting. And clubs, we had a very successful Club Rush Day a couple weeks ago, and our clubs are off and running online. PGCHS, our Wednesday career panels have been very successful, and we've had several board members there. And the feedback I've gotten is that they've enjoyed it, and more importantly, our students have enjoyed that opportunity. And what we've also seen with our CHS students is that through distance learning, we feel that there are less distractions for them. They seem more relaxed and open to help and guidance. Next slide, please. Very similar to the elementary school and middle school in that our attendance during this time, and as Mr. Roach pointed out, that he was surprised or anticipating something to be at a lower level. I too was anticipating that our attendance would not be that good, and I was happily surprised. 99%, that is stellar in any situation. We've had 43 students who have been impacted with tech absences at the high school, and at CHS we've had 3 students. And at CHS our attendance has improved as well. Next slide, please. The tiers that we have listed here, this should be familiar to those of you who like to frequent board meetings. All of these come from the continuity plan, which clearly outlined what our tiered support will be. So there is nothing new on this slide that hasn't been presented over the last 2 weeks. I'll give you a couple minutes or a minute to view it. Unlike Mr. Roach, I will not be having a pop quiz at the end. Next slide, please. And this will also look familiar as all of our schools are experiencing the same challenges. We need accurate data. We need to ensure that we are able to balance in-person and online instruction, not only for our students, but for our teachers. And we need to re-examine our check-in procedures and ensure that there is minimal impact on our instruction time. So that concludes the high school presentations. I would like to say publicly to my fellow principals, go Dodgers. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting that. Appreciate it. And we're going to take most of what you saw there is actually going to be reflected in this next little set of slides that I have. But I want to summarize a little bit about kind of some trends that we have been seeing and more rationale as to why we ended up making the decision that we chose to make. And I don't know why, but my screen is not sharing. Second here. Is that appearing on your screen?
We
No?
see that it says that you're sharing, but it's a black screen.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Mejia, if you would, could we go to plan B? Could you pull that second slideshow out? So is it plan B? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So we, as an admin team, met we actually every week and sometimes twice a week to take a look at some of the issues that are happening at our sites, try to formulate plans as we go. So we wanted to talk a little about some of the factors affecting transition to hybrid because we know that at this point, because SB 98 has not changed and there is still an allowance for parents to choose distance learning, even if we were to go to hybrid, that choice would still be allowed. So we would still have to allow for it. That makes it very complicated when initially we thought a hybrid learning system would be just hybrid and no longer distance learning. We would have to plan for both. And there are some problems and challenges that come up with that. Next slide, if you will, please. So the first factors that we looked at were health and family related. One of the concerns, and this was a concern actually shared by several districts throughout the county as we had conversations, there's the concern if we were to take a look at opening hybrid before before the data really showed it to be safe consistently, the concern would be that we may end up opening, reopening, closing, and closing again the schools as there were different surges throughout the fall and winter. It would be a significant disruption to the learning process, attendance, and participation. And obviously, anytime we'd have to, like we did back in March 13th, when we look at a close down and reopening, there's a lot of factors that come into play. That's a concern for us. There's a concern, obviously, about the spread of just regular flu or other viruses during the holidays that could help compound the problem. We'd rather not mix the two if at all possible. We felt it would be best to go through a regular flu season in distance learning and in the learning system that we currently are in and not compound it with COVID-19. Families and staff are still looking for childcare possibilities. Families and staff members would still have to do that. And we would be looking to the state, obviously, for more assistance on that. It's not something that we could provide for families as we have not been able to do so yet anyway. Also, while we are seeing some numbers dropping in Monterey County, or at least fluctuating, we still do remain in purple. And last conversation with Dr. Moreno, it was Tuesday this week, we're not looking at any change in that designation anytime in coming soon. Next slide. Some of the other challenges, and some of these are reiterations of what you heard, And this includes some possibilities, some things that we think might be helpful as well. Again, distance learning remains mandatory. So no matter what we do for in-person, we would have to account for that. And there's a strong emphasis and a focus that we have been making for distance learning so far. There may be questions as to, well, why have we not already started making large strides towards hybrid? The fact of the matter is, putting together the success of the distance learning program that we have so far and that you have seen through the previous slideshow, that has not come easy. It's taken a tremendous amount of focus, energy, and resources. If we were to make a shift to hybrid and distance learning, we would literally need to repurpose our technology department as well as our teaching staff to make that happen. 9 weeks into distance learning, we've learned a lot. One of the things that we've determined that the plans that you see in the current reopening plan, the hybrid plans that we made way back in April, May, are really unsustainable and would need to be redrafted based on the lessons we've learned so far. As mentioned, we know the same teacher cannot teach both live and distance learning at the same time on the same day. So we would need to take a look at hiring more staff or looking at some kind of software that would allow for students to be in distance learning. The important part to note that would then become really disassociated from our system. They would become the students that would go distance learning only under a separate program would literally be doing their own program. We tried to keep pace as much as possible, but we would lose synchronicity at some stage of the game for sure. We need for further planning and training for our students or our staff before moving to full in-person or hybrid models. This was mentioned earlier, but I cannot stress this enough. Any hybrid plan is going to require a re-rostering. We will have some staff members that due to health conditions, and we want to make sure that our staff are healthy, may not be able to be in person yet and would remain on distance learning. And if students are coming in person, they would need to be re-rostered to other teachers. So we would see numerous teacher changes and student reassignments. That's better done at a semester break than in the middle of the year. There's potentially significant staffing and support challenges to operate both these models and align with the county guidelines. We've been in discussion with a couple of the districts in South County who are looking at waivers currently, and the challenge that they currently are coming up with right now is that, number one, even though they're small schools with 600 ADA, they're still having difficulty trying to align the county guidelines for in-person. So that's something we would need to take a strong look at. Next slide, please. The waiver program has been working. At this point, the applications that came in are all for small schools with one exception. Monterey Peninsula is a very large district, but they have a different funding source for staffing. Typically, the success for waivers have been happening with schools that can have 12 to 13 students already. So there is no need for hybrid. They simply would bring the cohorts in. We don't have that situation for us at this point in time. We do know there'd be significant mid-semester schedule changes. And if we were to do that for the high school, we're still not clear how that would end up looking. But again, it goes right back to the same issue. We would need to take a look at a separate independent distance learning protocol for them as well. We did note that there will be less synchronous learning opportunities due to the complexities of both distance learning and hybrid. As one teacher noted, currently right now we have a larger number of minutes of synchronous live instruction, live interaction between the teachers and the students. If we were to go into a hybrid model with the understanding that there would also be distance learning, it would basically flip. There would be a lot more asynchronous instruction and a lot less live person-to-person instruction. We'd have to figure out how to navigate those waters. We do know that we are beginning our small academic cohorts for targeted instruction. We are hopeful that this transition, as we slowly navigate through that, will give us, teach us some more lessons about what we need to do as we begin to open up at in a greater capacity. So we want to watch that carefully. And again, we want to take our steps with enough prudence to make sure that what we're doing is working so that the next step is solid. Next slide, please. Any shift to in-person instruction will take time, aside from the fact that it takes a few weeks, a number of weeks, at least what we've been seeing for a waiver application. We do know that once we were approved for a waiver, or if we were to go into the red tier, We still need to wait for the 14 days to make sure that there's a consistency in the lack of cases before we can then open. We would anticipate, if we were to take a look at hybrid instruction or waiver, regardless of which, we probably would not be able to put a solid program together until sometime in early mid-November. Again, winter break is a better time for the transition. What we do know right now is that our attendance is excellent. I know that there's a lot of challenges with distance learning. I personally am seeing that as well. I know it's very difficult. I know we'd like to have a lot of folks come back. But the very positive end of this, we are getting very good participation and attendance through the distance learning program. Next slide, please. Surveys are essential. As you've heard this evening, we are estimating next week to issue out these surveys for our staffs, our families. And this is really intended to get an understanding of how many folks will return. And again, I know that some of the responses will be hard to read and hard to gauge because we can't really describe exactly what the hybrid program would look like without knowing how many folks would be looking for it. So a little bit of the chicken and the egg thing, but having the surveys will give us a better understanding of what that will look like. And we will continue to do satisfaction surveys, survey our students and our families to just continue to hone our skills with distance learning. Next slide, please. Continued and new supports. We want to assure families that aside from a lot of the supports that you have seen happening at our individual sites, we are continuing with our technology program, the Power Nights. I think there's one coming up here shortly. The technology support for parents through the ticket system, as well as just individual calls have been working along with support for students. We've been able to provide student desk chairs to help facilitate learning at home. We did some of this, if you recall, when we had some of the surplus furniture. We had parents come in to take a look at some of the needs that they have. We have had some parents that have made some requests, and this is mostly through special services that we've been able to provide it. We want to take a closer look at that still. Our school counseling have provided many support network nights and will continue to do so. We talked about the surveys. We are partnering with Cal State Monterey Bay, who will be providing support personnel to help support our teachers and our students for extra tutorial programs. We're looking forward to that. That'll give us some more hands on deck to assist us. And currently our high school is working out the logistics of beginning athletic conditioning with hopes of beginning in early November. Again, that'll help provide at least a little more semblance of normalcy for some of our students. We will be following the county guidelines as far as that goes. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the details in the slide are, we've talked about this before. We're looking at this point to begin with our students with disability and our English learners to bring them back in very small cohorts. The way those cohorts are designed and conducted are very specific by the county. So we are going to be working with those, and Director Davies and Director Silva have been working very hard with this. Looking forward to that beginning very soon. And understanding, of course, that as these cohorts begin at our school sites, we still need to make sure that we're following all of the safety protocols. And we'll hope to learn a lot from some of these small cohort work. There is a notation that we'll do the outdoors whenever possible. Right now, being, was that, what, 83 degrees today or something like that, I think we can still manage to get our kids outside as we need to. Next slide, please. And that's it. So you can go ahead and close that slide deck, Coordinator Mejia. So a lot there, but I think it's been, a lot of it has been repeat and was necessary. We wanted folks to be sure to have a glimpse of what we have been seeing. I think it was said best at the very beginning from Principal Rogeman. It does not fall upon deaf ears or vision on blind eyes for us at the district. We do realize that this is a challenge for families. We know that families want to get back. We want our students back as well. But our primary focus is to make sure that we can do this in a safe and effective fashion, to make sure that our students arrive at a school that's ready for them. It's a safe place for them to be in regards to COVID, and that we can provide a strong and robust learning environment for them. We don't want to make any move too fast that will force us to stutter step and then actually have to fall back again. So as I mentioned before, our recommendation is to take a look at, remain in the tier 1 of the reopening plans, at least through January. We will, beginning at this point, take a look at what distance learning and hybrid could look like If we were to fall to a distance learning only program in the mix, is there a separate program that we can look into? What will that look like? What will staffing look like? We will continue to make those adjustments at this point forward to be ready. But again, we're going to be basing it on the data that we see. So we can answer individual questions as we go now, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to you, Madam President, and we are at your call.
Thank you so much. I'm going to bring it to the board for any additional questions. Actually, I'll let you guys ask any questions you might have. Christy, do you have any that you'd like to?
Dr. Porras, you just said through January, and I think the word is until January.
Until January, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was my note. Thank you.
No, no worry. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
John Paff?
Well, I fundamentally agree, given the numbers from the county and the fact that even though districts, not us particularly, but have used the words like pivot, in fact, this isn't a pivot. There requires quite a bit of work to get there, to make such changes. It's clear we can't do it in October. The next possible break really is a January start. In the interim, we ought to be providing the best possible technology we have available now for the next 9 weeks. I think if need be to even get there in January, we should be looking at every, even at some things which seem like maybe they don't, but if we need even an extra week, then asking for help on calendar to buy into an extra week somehow in January, if we can trade back. I mean, if that buys us the ability to go back, that would be beneficial and useful even to have that discussion. It is absolutely clear we can't have both distance learning and in class without significant changes in staff. And the word that came out from the presentation was re-rostering, which is an interesting word because I'm not sure if we're re-rostering teachers or re-rostering students, but nonetheless, it's going to change. So that's going to take quite a bit of effort to get there. I appreciate the inputs. I appreciate letting us know where we are, and yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Brian?
I'm in support of the direction that we're going here and hanging on until January. I'm really impressed with everything that's happened so far. Again, I think we all know this is not ideal. It's just never going to be ideal. But when I think back over, the weeks and weeks and months that everybody's been managing this, I'm really impressed with how many things are being done. And it's just more and more as issues come up, issues get addressed. And certainly nobody is sitting back and just letting stuff happen. We can see that even to the point where it's like, oh, beyond Chromebooks or a hotspot, but if you need a chair or you need a desk, it's like that is incredibly impressive. So I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again too, because it's been demonstrated that it's effective for the parents out there. If you have support needs, make sure that you ask, because those issues are getting addressed and the people have been there and they're taking care of it. So, and safe and effective was a word that was, or a phrase that was uttered earlier. And that is one of my concerns with moving too quickly, is that I think as we've gone through this and learned about how the distance learning model is working, we've gotten more and more effective at it. And I don't want us to jump ahead and then have to move back and then go forward again. So I think it's as good as it can be right now. And again, parents, if you have needs, please make sure you ask, because I have no doubt that your needs are going to be addressed. I think everybody's doing a great job.
Thank you, Brian. John Walton?
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. I was struck by, I think, the complexity that it's going to take to return to the schools, to the facilities. We talk about here in my job, it's better to do one thing well than two things poorly. And I think we're still trying to figure out how to do distance learning well. And I know everyone's working really hard at that. I know it's hard on the parents. I know the students are still adapting to it. I know the teachers are working really hard at it. But I don't see how rushing into a hybrid model while we're still perfecting distance learning benefits the educational experience that the kids are going to have. So I agree with some of the safety concerns. I know there's a lot of divided opinions about that, but given the fact that there are different opinions about it, you know, assuming we do go to a hybrid model in January, we need time to perfect the distance learning model so that the distance learning model is working well when January comes around. If we go into a hybrid model in January, then we need to really think through what the costs and impact to the staff are. I truly believe, you know, there'll be some teachers and students that won't be able to come back in January, even if they wanted to or we wanted them to. I know as a parent of a middle schooler and high schooler, there's nothing more than I want than see my kids be able to go back to school and get that, you know, socialization and get them out of the house and get them some exercise and have them see their friends again. But at the same time, you know, I think as a school board trustee, I have to err on the side of caution in respect to the parents who have different challenges. I know it's hard on a lot of families right now, and I wish there was an easy solution to this, but I don't see one. So I'm in favor of staying with a distance learning model until January.
Thank you, John. Gabby, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
I don't really have too much input, but I really appreciate all the work everyone's putting into this. And I understand why we have had to continue with distance learning. And of course, safety is the first priority for the teachers, faculty, and my peers. But I'm looking forward to hopefully getting into some hybrid learning come January. But just thank you everyone for all the work you guys have put in.
Great. Thank you, Yami. Yeah, so I mean, I did basically what everybody said. I think safety is number one. One thing that the consistency for the students really is. I'm not a fan of going back and then going back to distance learning. I think we really need to be sure that, well, we can't ever be 100% sure, but that the county and the state have says, yeah, we have a vaccine or whatever the case may be, and it's safe. And even if it is that situation, we still have to take precautions, but I think we really just need to protect everybody and wait for that. And hopefully that is soon, before January, but as John Walton said, we need the time. So what I wanted to ask is, sorry, I'm reading my notes. As far as when we say January, so the winter break we come back on January 4th, whatever that Monday is, right?
Correct. I think it's the 4th or 5th. I'm sorry.
4th or 5th. So that Monday is when we come back and then we have a board meeting on January 7th. Is that a proposed time that we would talk about it?
Well, I think we have board meetings between now and then. And if we're seeing a shift or a change, especially from the state level, we can bring that in at any time.
Right.
And so I think right now, as we did back in April, I think this is sort of the working plan. And so we will certainly be looking at options to do for opening. But if come, you know, one of the meetings in the meeting in December and realize that we're nowhere close, we can certainly discuss it then as well. We're just we can absolutely make a decision on that 7th as well if we need to. But I think we'll have information as we go.
Yeah, thank you. I guess where I was, my thought process was when we tell families January, right? We're going to reevaluate it in January. I kind of want just to have a understanding, but I understand also, as you said, that things might change. Hopefully they will change for the better between now and winter break.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to have another conversation that might be a little different. That's
Sure.
being optimistic. But at the very least, the January 7th would be another discussion.
Yes.
Regarding what's next.
For sure. And we would need a week at least to try to get ourselves shifted and ready to go on opening. Because when students return, no matter what, they're going to need some training time too. So we're going to need a little bit of transition time in that time frame. But we'll keep the conversation alive, and we won't let we'll make sure that we're ahead of it to the extent that we can be.
The original plan, the tier 1 was to end October 19th, which is after the fall break. And so what was the actual date of tier 2?
The tier 2 originally was October 19th through January 5th.
Okay,
so
it's still in line then.
Right. So it'd still be tier 1, but tier 1 through until January 5, 2021.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I know it's not what I don't think anybody really wants. And I think it's what we need to do. So I appreciate the information. I appreciate the presentation and all the hard work that everybody's been doing. Parents, kids, and of course, all of the staff. So I am going to open up to public comment now. And board, I just want to take a time check. It's 8 o'clock, and this is obviously an important item. We have a few items after, but I don't think those will take us too long. I'm going to go ahead and allow 30 minutes if we need it for comment, and then we'll kind of go from there. Any objections? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, so first is Cole.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a kindergarten there at Forest Grove, and first off, the distance learning is not sustainable for working parents. This is very tough for us. How is it that everybody else is going back to work, but somehow teachers are exempt? It's obvious teachers don't want to go back to the classroom. If they did, they'd be fighting to get back in there. All I hear you guys talking about is how great the attendance levels are. What is it going to take? Everyone not logging in to get your attention? I don't know about how your house is, but our house is full attention. We want our child to love school, but all I can say is he hates it, and it's a battle every day to get him to log on. We've had less than 40 cases since February in Pacific Grove. Think about the students. They're isolated and miserable. I feel like no one is speaking up for the kids. They can go to parks, they can go to paid organized activities, but they can't attend public school. We live in a perfect climate to teach outside with a hybrid system while maintaining social distance. I want to encourage you to apply for the waiver, please. That's it.
Thank you. You know, I don't want to speak for all the teachers, but we really just, it's about safety, and I get what you're saying, and I do agree with you at the same time, but there's also state mandates that we have to follow, and county states mandates that we have to be under. So I know we have the waiver, and that's where we're at right now.
Tough. It's very tough for working parents. You know, the stress level is very high. And I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have kids that are both in school and you guys are both working, but I mean, you know, it comes to tears in our house sometimes. It's tough. So I just want to let you guys know from working parents, it is very tough.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing, and we definitely will keep all of these comments in consideration.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Colleen Brousseau.
Hey, you got my name right.
Yay!
I first just want to say that in just response to that comment, the teachers do want to come back. We just want it to be safe. My husband and I both work full-time. I'm obviously a teacher at Forest Grove, and I have 3 children, and one of them has special needs, and it is chaotic, but we're all doing the best we can, and we want it to be safe for everybody. But what I had originally raised my hand for was to ask about the plan to do the hybrid in January. Are the teachers going to be given a certain amount of time to get the rooms ready, so that way we are not asked or expected to come in during our winter break, because we do need that time to recharge and everything else. So I just wanted to know if that has been considered.
Yes. Dr. Porras, I'll let you confirm, but I believe that the hybrid is just a consideration, and it's not going to be a for sure thing. It's going to be discussed again and planned. And as mentioned earlier, we'll make sure that there's time, and not during your winter break. There's time for everyone to get prepared. The facilities, management, all of that needs to be done as well to make sure our measurements are in place. So, do you have anything else to add, Dr. Porras?
No, I absolutely. We would be working very closely with all of our staff. Of course, that's goes without saying.
Thank you. Sally Richmond.
Hello, Sally Richmond, Pacific Grove High School. I just wanted to comment on if we return to school. Unfortunately, the calendar that was approved by the board does not allow for a teacher return day. That was given up in exchange for teacher prep or professional development at the beginning of the year. So the calendar committee would need to address that if it was decided that the teachers should not have to return during school break or winter break in order to set up their rooms. Mine is a mess right now. My other comment was that I would request that we start discussing earlier rather than later whether or not the hybrid system is going to happen. If we're discussing in early January, that's too late for me. So the sooner the decision could be made, I mean, pending, of course, whatever new information happens, it'll be better for the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last question, absolutely, we agree. And I think that's kind of where we were talking about. We have we have about 5 meetings in between now and the winter break. So we have plenty of time to talk about it. Plus, we don't really know what's going to be happening at that time and what's even going to be allowed. But definitely we'll for sure make sure there's plenty of time for planning. Dr. Porras, I'll ask you to respond to the first one if you can. If not, we can respond via email.
Well, yeah, we would certainly get together with the calendar committee, take a look at what that would be. And yes, for sure, conversations would happen as soon as we can have them.
For the teacher, there was something about a teacher day?
The teacher prep day, yeah. Originally it was for the return back in January. We traditionally have a day before the students arrive for the teacher to do preparation.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
we would work with the unions to make that happen.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, Lisa Thomas.
Good evening. This is actually her husband, Steve. Thanks very much for taking my call, but also thanks for all the hard work from not only the board of trustees, but staff, and of course, all the teachers in dealing with this particular bump in the road for all of us. I do want to ask if there's a possibility over the next couple of weeks going into break for the staff and the administrators of the schools for lessons learned. What things might we be able to do better going into the second quarter? Obviously, we're going to be at 100% distance learning, but I do think if there's some ways to be able to implement some better practices, and that might be something that is able to move us through to the second semester. My 2 kids are in the middle school right now. I know that Mr. Roach and the staff have done a phenomenal job, as of all the teachers. You know, and it's unfortunate that Monday is what it is. I don't know if there's a way to augment that going forward with some additional class time, synchronous learning, even if it's just a check-in, because there is a good amount of time that's utilized in each class on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, just to get the kids in, waiting for everybody to log on, and then having to deal with those students that may or may not be fully engaged. The teachers are doing a great job trying to keep all the cats herded, and it's tough. And just like the speaker said before, it's difficult for working parents, and a lot of things can go sideways. But you know, that may be something that can happen. But I also want to second and urge the board to take a long, hard look at 3 things going into second semester. If we return full time at that point, are we ready? If we return in the hybrid, are we ready? And if it's going to be distance learning completely for the rest of the year, are we ready for that? And all those things should be looked at and contingency plans put into place, not to heap more work on, but I do think that whatever happens, at least at the middle school level, my hope is that we'd be able to have more engagement on Mondays, because as it stands right now, it's a little bit of a lost day. It is what it is. At least to just check in, for 15 to 30 minutes per class or something like that. So anyways, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate, again, all the hard work everyone's doing, and thank you again.
Thank you. I have some notes also from what you said there. Paul Gutierrez.
I think it's important to recognize all the hard work that has gone in to making this happen, and there's significant improvement from last year. But I also think it's important to recognize that this is not a replacement education for our children. This is not a viable solution. There's so many things that our children are lacking because of this, especially I have a child in middle school and I have a child in elementary school. And there's so many things that kids learn at a young age, how to sit in a seat quietly while somebody is talking, to not be distracted, which is one of the things that I heard somebody brought up. There are less distractions. Yeah, of course there are less distractions. They're in their house. They don't have their best friend next to them trying to talk to them. They're not learning that discipline to say, okay, I understand you want to talk, but I'm in class right now. I need to focus on this. That part of their development, that part of discipline, that part of socialization is we're denying them that. We are failing them. And I don't think that anybody on the board should kid themselves for a second, or any teacher should kid themselves for a second to think that this is a realistic substitute for in class. And I'm sure that somebody's going to say, okay, I know it's not, but consider that when we decide not to put in for the waiver. An approved waiver does not mean that we have to go do that right now. It means that we have the waiver, and when we're ready, we go. If we wait until January to apply for that waiver because we're still in the same tier, now we've just pushed it back even farther. I also think it's really interesting that we talk about the hybrid model, and we recognize that for the teachers, a hybrid model is very, very strenuous, right? Because they're going to be teaching in class and they're going to be teaching online. How is that going to happen? But what the board fails to recognize is that the parents at home are already doing a hybrid model. We're already doing that. We're handling our work. We're handling our school. In my case, my wife and I both work. We both go to school, and I'm handling my child's education. So while I understand that that's hard for the teachers, right now that's on the parents. There's no paycheck for us doing it. Now you could easily say, oh, well, those are your kids, right? Yeah, my child's expectations of me are high. My expectations of myself are high. But on a national level, mental health is in a really bad place. Look at suicide rates. Look at mental health in California. Suicide rates have gone up by 70% in Fresno County. It's a hard number to get for Monterey. It's going to be hard. They're going to say, it's going to take a few years for government numbers to come up. But the crisis hotlines are blowing up right now. And that's because people are really, really struggling. This is a virus. This is not going away. We're not going to wait this out and then one day there's going to be a clear day and the sun's going to shine and everything's going to be okay. Our children are watching us. They're watching us and they're deciding, how do we face things that we're scared of? Scared of making a wrong move, scared of being held accountable, scared of being culpable for something that may or may not be our fault. On top of that, safety. Let's talk about going back safely. My children can go to Target, they can go to Walmart, they can go to any store. There are no controls in any of those stores really to protect them from social distancing. Nothing compared to what a school could put in place and say, hey, 6 feet. hey, you have to step back. We're only going to allow this many people in to the school on this day. There are only going to be this many students in the classroom. So while the board's decision seems pretty set in stone that we're not going to apply for the waiver, it's much safer for the kids to be in that environment than outside of that environment for their future, for their health now, where that can be controlled. If we apply for it now, come January, we're ready, we already have it. If we wait till January, we're pushing it back even farther. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the waiver, I'm gonna ask questions when it comes back to the board regarding that. You know, I just want to make a comment about, you have a lot of valid, more than valid statements. It's just there's a big difference between going to Target or the grocery store or any other public place that allows you to come in with the mask than to be in a small room with 20, 30 kids and one teacher. And there's a big difference there. And we don't have the staff right now, is what we're saying, that we would need to hire a lot of staff to be able to do that. Not saying that's not going to be changing, it's just that's where we're at right now. Heloisa, I'm just going to use your first name. That's okay.
Yes, hi there. I have a second grader at Robert Down and a middle schooler. And a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said, but what I wanted really to emphasize the importance of being prepared for whatever model it is that we're going to have in January, starting to work on it now. So we're not, making decisions once we are told which way we're going. So if we are going to hybrid model, we need to start hiring and preparing and doing everything for it now. If we are, the different models that Dr. Porras, said it could be possible, I just want to make sure that we sit down and we discuss, and the schools discuss how they're going to do it, prepare for 2 or 3 different scenarios, not wait until January to start preparing. Thank you.
Thank you. And as mentioned, we have, I'm just going to count to Ms. Puck and give you the exact one. Well, that's today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings before the winter break. So we do have some time there to discuss more. Kathleen Selfridge.
Hi, thank you guys very much for obviously hosting this tonight. I just wanted to point out a few things. And first of all, I appreciate Paul Gutierrez's comments. I too am a working parent. I have 2 children in the middle school, and I'm also a high school teacher, as is my husband. And I just want to throw something out there that the teachers do want to come back. Many of the teachers do want to come back. I see the students every day, and I tell them that I want to see them in person. So we do want to come back as soon as is humanly possible. The hybrid models that are being presented right now do feel a little bit insurmountable. I would like to, if possible, come back either 100% or stay distance learning. I don't want to lose the relationships that I'm building with students, even virtually. And that is, to me, the most important thing that I'm losing is that face-to-face contact and those relationships with the kids. I have this quarter-mester, I have 3 classes of freshmen, kids that I've really, for the most part, never met before. And I'm trying to establish those relationships, but in seeing them just virtually for an hour with tech problems, it's problematic. I want to be back with them. And so I appreciate those of you who are helping push for the, for us to try and come back to school as much as we possibly can. And anyway, I guess that's all I really wanted to say. So thank you guys for all of your support. Thank you for doing everything that you can to get us back to school, back in front of the kids, and so that we can continue the education in PGUSD. So
Thank you.
I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. P. Doyle. Oh, P. O'Doyle.
Yes, good evening, Patrick Doyle. I have two children at Forest Grove. First of all, off topic, I'm sorry, but I just have to thank Dr. Porras and the entire Pacific Grove School District Board and teachers for your support against the opening of the cannabis store in Pacific Grove. I know that's off topic, but I just want to thank you for that. Even though it was unsuccessful, I think there's going to be a referendum or something about that perhaps we can sign, get those 1,100 signatures and stop that still. Sorry. Again, thanking, I want to say that I agree with Paul Gutierrez and Cole and Heloisa in their strong statements. I too, or we, my wife especially, has a tough time with our two children who really loved school, but now dislike it very much. And we really think we need to apply for the waiver. But my question is, I think that when we did the survey, or when you did the survey earlier in the year, there were a number of parents that probably would not want to go back to or send their children back to school. Even if we had the waiver, we were allowed to go back. And that was maybe a third, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But what is the possibility of going back full time, 5 days a week, if a third of our families don't want to send their students back and go 5 days a week, as Kathleen would like to do? Because as I see it now, we're not just doing 3 models or 2 models, we're doing 3 models. We're going to do a hybrid where the teachers are going to do their students 2 days a week and then distance learning the other time. And then you're going to have other students that are doing distance learning the rest of the full time. So that's 3 models. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. And that's the part of it, is that it's almost impossible without hiring almost like double staff and teachers. And it's just not possible right now. Dr. Porras, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm listening, taking notes, and certainly I think that, I agree. I think applying for the waiver, we absolutely want to consider that and take a look at what the implications are. It's not as simple as just applying, and it's really trying to, because we need to explain how we would execute the program. So we'd have to explain that in the waiver as well, and that's the difficulty right now, is describing what that program would look like. I absolutely, totally hear and understand and agree. We are already down the path of planning. We're trying to figure out what some of these iterations will look like. So the admin team has already hit the ground running with that. It's just going to take us a little time to kind of ferret things out.
Thank you. Shylin, I hope I said that right.
It's actually Julie.
Oh,
thank you for everyone. That's okay. It's Julie. It's her mom.
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate everyone's input and work on this. I really love what all the commenters have had to say tonight and agree with the strong support for getting the kids back to school. I really want the waiver to go through. And what I'm hearing is a lot of the challenges for the different models. And it seems like a lot of these challenges have been there all along. So I know everyone's trying to teach and work on all these other things too, but what I'd like to see is a timeline for answers to all these challenges. If we've got a date out there of early January, then I believe we need to work backwards from that date and put together answers to all those challenges and actually put something in place so that we don't come to early January or end of December and be at the same position where we talk about the possibility of moving forward. And I know there's been some discussion about, oh, there's 5 more meetings between now and then. There's winter break. well, we need to focus on what's most important here, and it's the students. And we need to put some of those usual schedules aside and focus on the students, since that's what this is all about. Thank you for everyone's time.
Thank you. Carolyn Swanson.
Hello all, thank you for having my comments. Thank you for the presentation tonight. I have a couple questions, a couple clarifying questions and some other questions. So for distance, for the kids going back into school, do they have to have a credentialed adult, a credentialed teacher with them in their cohorts of 12 to 14, or could it be a classified staff member? I ask that because I know that I don't have a credential and I'm teaching my child at home through distance learning. So I was curious if we could start really getting creative about how we're thinking about what school will look like when it is on campus. Maybe having kids have their Chromebooks at school, have the lessons coming to them just like they are coming into my dining room, but the children would be on campus. And I'm not saying that this has to happen right now, but I would like to hear some more kind of thoughts on how we can solve these problems. I don't know if we have to necessarily hire more credentialed teachers or if we just have to have a district employee with our children. And then I would also like to hear what the district needs. Like, for instance, do they need more money to hire another tech person? Things like that that are specific, that are tangible, that maybe we can start agendizing and working on now. I do think 5 meetings is going to go by really quickly. Also, maybe some more PPP talk about PPE, talk for teachers. Maybe there's a full face respirator out there that can really truly protect them from catching the virus. And maybe there's something that we haven't explored, or maybe we don't want to explore it, but at least more conversations about some of these other topics. And then I would love for there to be an established communication channel for families to communicate in a way that we can talk about what we need for distance learning to be done to improve distance learning without fearing that we're going to offend teachers. We don't want to offend teachers, but families are in a really strange spot right now where there's certain things about distance learning that are not working, but we don't really know how to bring that up because we're just being told to tell our teachers, but our teachers are the lovely people who created or are being forced to create the product that we have a complaint about. And so I would love to hear options on what families can do on how to communicate to make these programs become better, because it sounds like we're going to be in them for a while. And then my last question, I would love an update on what staff childcare is looking like. I know that the board approved, it was in the summer, for there to be childcare for staff available. And even though parents are in this position where we are having to work full time and we are having to administer our kids' education, I actually found a lot of comfort in knowing that the district was going to provide an option of childcare, at least for the teachers. And I wanted to hear an update on that, see if that's happened. Thank you.
Okay. As far as the communication goes, I get, not emailing the teacher directly sometimes, depending on the subject, but there's a site administrator. There's counselors that you can email, you can reach out to, and there's the board and Dr. Porras. So if you have anything that is not being addressed and maybe you don't want to go directly to the teacher, there are other avenues that I just mentioned. As far as the other questions, Dr. Porras, if you probably could address all of them actually, but so the credentialed teacher, money issue, and staff childcare.
Well, I'll take a crack at it, and then if I can get other information out as necessary. yes, we need to have a credentialed teacher with students when they're being in the classroom. We can work with instructional aides when there are some supervision issues happening. However, the students are ultimately under the direction and supervision of a certificated teacher. So we have looked at some of the models where we can do some cohorts within the classroom or an adjacent classroom with a classified employee. And we're looking to some flexibility around that, but it's not quite as simple as that. So, but we have been talking about that, and we're looking at some possibilities to model that out with the targeted instruction. We have certainly been working quite a bit as a staff, as an administrative staff in particular, but also with teachers in regards to some of the other district needs. For example, when we brought up the issue with the technology, we've already moved forward with hiring the additional tech support for the ticket and the response for parents. That's already been put in place. We've already flown for that position. And as those needs come up, we've been discussing them with the board, or we've just been addressing it and taking care of it. So we have had a lot of those conversations. We'll continue to do so. The personal protective equipment, our nurse Powley has been on top of that, along with Director Kelly, and they've ordered. We've already received orders for equipment. And they're looking at state-of-the-art nanotechnology for some of the cleaning in regards to viruses on surface. And we've already been looking at how that will work for us for the time that we do return. We need to sanitize classrooms. So those conversations have been happening. It hasn't necessarily been happening directly in front of the board, but as administration does, we work behind the scenes to make sure that stuff gets taken care of. Yes, you're correct. I've been getting a number of emails, I know principals do as well, when parents are concerned in regards to something happening in the classroom. We've definitely been getting parents talking with us, and we've been able to address those as we can and talk with the teacher. Teachers are very open to, I have found the teachers have been very open to comments and concerns and ways that they can do their job better. So I would encourage parents to continue to email us at the district office, but first and foremost, talk directly with the site principal, and as they have been doing. I think those were some of them. And then, yeah, as far as the distance learning piece goes, some of the avenues we've been looking at for that is if we do go to an independent group, for example, Acellus as an independent group, there still has to be a teacher of record, a teacher who's credentialed, one who has experience with California standards and can moderate those standards in that instruction. And it could very well be our own teachers that do that work. It's just going to depend on how many we have and in what capacity, and if they're credentialed in the subject area, if it's a secondary program. So.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. And the child care,
oh yeah,
I believe that we applied to be able to take care of older children, and that is still pending. Is that correct? Or
I would defer. I'm going to go ahead and defer to Principal Martinez. She may be able to give a little bit more on the child care, but we also had made that offer for child care for staff, and we didn't get a lot of people that actually expressed interest. They were already receiving care or for the toddlers in the program at the adult school already. But I don't know, the Principal Martinez, don't mean to put you on the spot, but if there's something you could speak to the child care, that'd be great.
Love to. Hi, everybody. Barb Martinez, Director of Safety and Principal of the Adult School. It's a long process to put in a waiver, and working with Bright Beginnings and First Five and Community Care Licensing, we were able to get in the very first week. We went through fire inspection, went through every single classroom at the adult school, and made sure that we had all of the qualifications for CPR for staff. You know, it's difficult when your CPR gets expired during COVID and having to do that face-to-face training. We were able to really push forward, provide the training to our staff, make sure that we had the online training and face-to-face scheduled CPR training. I was notified today that our waiver to extend our school-aged children childcare will be approved tomorrow. So there you go.
Hey, very good. Thank you for that update. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it soon.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We are just at the 30 minutes. So, but I do have we have one more hand, and it just says iPhone. So I think whoever knows that they're waiting, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that a lot of the teachers have their children in childcare centers like the adult center or the YMCA while they're teaching, right? But then the majority of the teachers have voted to keep the schools closed. Do you guys see the irony in that? Their children are safe in childcare while we're at home teaching our children, but their kids get to go be in childcare so they don't have to teach and teach their children at the same time? Pretty ironic to me. And then another question. If say half of the parents got sick of this and decided to take their children out of your schools, would your district lose funding? And then do your teachers feel that they're actually earning their pay right now? Those are my questions.
Okay, so the first one was a statement. The second one was we will not lose funding because our school is ADA and it's most of our budget is on taxes, property taxes. And the third one is they're absolutely earning their pay.
Debbie, we are actually basic aid.
Basic aid, I'm sorry.
Property taxes, not ADA.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, after 9 years, I think I do know that. That's what I meant to say.
And
We
it
are
also-
funded by property tax.
The first one was not a statement, it was a question. I asked if you saw the irony in that.
Madam President, if I may.
Sure.
I'll answer, Ralph.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I did have an answer, but go ahead, John.
Well, the answer is the teachers haven't voted on anything. There's no possibility of anyone going back at the moment. This isn't a vote.
Right.
I mean, to state that in that manner, it's not ironic because there's no irony because it's simply not factual. Right. Period.
Okay, and my answer was going to be no, I do not see the irony in that. Dr. Porras?
No, I Trustee Papp addressed it. It's not an issue of vote. It's an issue of our directives from the state right now. We're following guidelines. The teachers are doing an extraordinary job balancing what's going on around them and have risen to the task that we've asked of them. They're working very hard on this. And it's not just working hard, they're working diligently under the constraints that were given by the state.
Thank you. Okay, I have a bunch of hands up. I'm going to let Shannon McCarty speak, and then we're going to come back to the board for further discussion.
That's fine. I can put my hand down.
Oh, who said that? Barbara?
No, that was the iPhone person.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
Okay, I just wanted to say, just as the president of our teachers union, the same as John Papp, it's not, we as teachers aren't, it's not a vote. If we could vote and it was that easy to do, we would all come back to school and just be here because none of the teachers like this. So I just wanted to say that as we understand all of the parents' frustration and all of the hard difficultness that it puts on families, we also understand that it's not in our control really right now. It's by the government. And so we are doing the best we can do with what we have. And we know that this is not ideal teaching. And we know that this is not a substitute for classroom teaching and all the socialization that kids need and want. And, you know, we want to be back at school, but we just can't do that right now. So that's really all I wanted to say, was to address that. It's not the teachers pushing that the reason that we're not going back. The teachers are not pushing for anything other than safety for everyone and following the county guidelines.
Thank you. Okay, I have some hands up. Board, would you mind if I stop accepting the hands, but go ahead and allow the hands that are up now? 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to say it for the record, Christina Luciano is going to be the last speaker, and the next up in line, and we have 4. So Kylene Brousseau, you're up.
Hi, Kylene Brousseau, Forest Grove teacher. I just wanted to respond to that. I have 3 children and they are home with me. And 2 of my children go to a school outside of the district. One of them is in the district, and we are all on totally different schedules. And I am often working and helping my kids in between what would be like my recess time and my lunch time. And only now I am maybe working 10 to 12 hours a day, but I was working 16 hours a day maybe up until maybe like 2 weeks ago. And I only am now down to 10 hours, which is substantially more than what I work typically in the classroom. So it would be by far easier to be back in the classroom, but again, it is not safe. So I just want the parents to understand that the teachers, most of our kids are actually home with us and they are learning while we are teaching. And so our children don't even have the benefit of having a parent close by to help them because we are teaching your children. So I just think that that's important to clarify. And again, we are all working incredibly hard. So I just wanted to note that.
Thank you. And thank you for the hard work as well. Hedal Patel, I know I'm pretty sure I always say your name wrong. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Hethel. I just wanted to say that I think that there has been a misunderstanding because there is no childcare for teachers. I just like to say I'm a teacher at Forest Grove. I teach 2nd grade. And so currently I have 2 children in the district and I am teaching, and I have 2 children that are, I would say, successfully doing school. And I'm shaky because this is not easy. It's extremely difficult. However, you know what, this is, I went into this profession because I love doing what I do. And like Ms. Brousseau just said, we are working all day long. There is evenings, there are nights, there's constant working. So I just wanted to get that clarified because I think that the person who spoke thinks that this is easier for us. And it's ironic that the teachers are sending their kids to childcare and we're teaching. We are not. We're doing this. And we're doing this because this is the safest thing for everybody involved, for all parties. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Nicole Bullich.
Hi, I'm Nicole Bulich. I am an English teacher at the high school, and I also have 2 3-year-olds at Forest Grove. And I want to echo what Hethel and Kylene have said. My 3-year-old twins are home with me. My husband works out of the home, so it's just me. Trying to, there's my daughter right there.
There's one behind you. Yeah.
Yes. And she's like, Mom, what are you doing? Trying to hold down the fort here. As an English teacher, I am not, this is not new to me, working long hours. I'm used to grading essays and giving students feedback on their writing. I don't know that I have ever worked harder than I have so far this year. And that includes my first year teaching, which was insane. As any teacher can tell you, that first year is one of the hardest years of your life. And I had twins. And this has to be right up there with that. I feel like I'm working around the clock. I'm working on weekends. I'm working nights. I should be grading essays right now because I told kids I'd have them back to them tomorrow, but I'm not. Instead, I'm here at the board meeting. I see parents, I see your frustration. I feel how hard this is. As teachers, and I know Katie Selfridge asked me to mention this as well, that she is home with her children. We see you, but we're in this too. We want to go back to work and be with our students, but we want to go when it's safe. We can't have cohorts at the high school, at least not the way that our schedule is right now. And I don't want to risk my or my family's life in order to teach my students.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last comment. Christina Luciano.
Hi, I just wanted to echo what everybody has said. Again, I am a 2nd grade teacher at Robert Down, and I have a daughter who is a 1st grade student and a 19-month-old at home with me as I try to teach. And I'm doing it all from home, and my husband works full time. And so I am juggling everything. And like everyone else said, I often work until midnight, finishing up on grading assignments, commenting on student work, making sure I'm touching base with my students and developing online curriculum. So this is in no way, shape, or form ideal for anybody. And like everybody said, I get that and I see that. I live it day to day. I'm in it too. I want to go back more than anything to be with my kids in the classroom. And I tell them that almost daily, but I, like everybody else, I want to do it when it's safe and when our county is able to do it. Right now, it's just not safe. And I really appreciate the teachers and the administration that understands that right now at this time. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the board. I'm just going to make a statement that the teachers, it's been said, but the teachers are working triple, probably more, and you are appreciated, and administration is, you are appreciated. And I don't think there's any question with that here. So just know that. Okay, board, I'm going to bring it back to us for a discussion if there are any other questions. I'm going to start off. Dr. Porras, the really only question I have right now is the waiver. I know you have explained this a few times, but I want to verify the waiver timeline, one thing, but then the waiver cannot be submitted until we have a plan, and the plan has to be able to work for us for
Correct.
them to approve it.
Correct.
Right. So it's not just saying, here's, we want the waiver, say yes or no. It's, here's the waiver application with probably 20 pages, I'm guessing, of this is our plan. Is that correct?
Correct. The waiver asked to describe how you would maintain all of the protocols that are requested. It's not as academic as it is making sure that we are following the guidelines for proper social distancing and student protection. The student program gets mixed into it because we have to describe how we would move cohorts back and forth, how we would disinfect between those cohorts that are on site, how would you maintain the number of students, and how they would, their mobility across back and forth around campuses. Again, the majority of districts who have applied for the waiver, it's not as difficult for them. I say that very loosely because their ADAs are so much smaller. They already have 10, 12 students per classroom. So they don't have a hybrid model. When they bring the kids back, they're already in a maximum efficient situation. So yes, it would take some time for us to flesh out what that plan would look like. So it's not simply just filling out a paper saying we want to. We have to define what that is. And the county, Dr. Moreno would review it, say yes or no, and then he would pass it to the California Department of Public Health. Then they would have to approve, and then so on and so forth. It's not impossible to apply for. And again, we just need to have more information regarding what a hybrid program would look like, and again, how that would mix in with distance learning.
Yeah. And at this time, it really wouldn't work for us for a couple of reasons. That number one, doesn't work doing part distance learning and part in class. And the other thing is that the space and the staff, we just don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, we will certainly progress, and as we plan and look at it, I mean, again, as I said, the admin team is on this, so we're the next step now is to take a look at what are some methods we can use, and if we have enough to be able to draft a waiver, we'll certainly can put something together, bring it to the board, and say we want to apply. Here's what we're looking at, and move forward with it. Nobody wants to drag their feet on this one.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Christy, do you have any?
Yes, I do. First of all, I mean, people were frustrated in the summer when we were trying to figure out what we're going to do. And it was all projected. These are possibilities, and parents hadn't lived fully the reality of where we are now. And we're so many months down the road since early March when this started. So it's heartbreaking to hear the parents and the struggle. Clearly right this second, we can't do anything, but I did hear from the parents tonight in their requests as they were talking about the situations at their homes, that it's critical that we move forward on the waiver soon. I mean, even the most frustrated, if they know that's in progress, that's going to help, I think, tremendously. So I think you mentioned not dragging our feet. I agree, we move forward. And as we talk about schools that are small, I worked in Los Angeles Unified, where in a regular classroom, you'd have 40, 42 kids. So there are other places that have a much worse situation. So I don't want to get bogged down, but because we're just where we are. So I'd like to work going forward. I'd also like to urge the parents who are frustrated. You saw the hands go up with the teachers, who some are on the verge of tears talking about how difficult their lives are right now. So it's critical that as we move forward, that we're kind and patient, but we have to be moving forward. So I would just like that in these next, as we said, 5 meetings, that we need updates so that parents know that things are happening, because we don't want to get to December and a bunch of people apply and somehow we're pushed down in the line and we find out we can make movement in February or March. We don't want that. So I urge we move forward on that, and please everybody be kind and take it easy on these teachers. I think what they're going through is there's nothing like it that's ever happened. It's a tough gig. And it's horrible for parents, and be patient, please. That's my comment.
Thank you, Christy. And for those who don't know, Christy is a teacher with a lot of experience behind her, so she knows. John Path.
Well, we've already committed that we're going to be putting in and working towards and finding out when it's appropriate to put in a waiver. So that's set for me. We're not working towards a January meeting. We're working towards a January start right now. That's set for me as well. That's what was discussed earlier. And for, Cole and Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Thomas and Eloise and Patrick and other people who spoke, we hear you. I still have a child in PG schools, and none of it's simple. It's pretty much hard no matter what. And I have an extra kid at home now who's doing all this from college. So not sympathetic, but I'm going to follow, well, it's not a button. The rules require us to be in a certain spot right now. And as they change, we will try and accommodate as best we possibly can. And that is at best K through 6 at this moment. So thank you.
Well said, John. Thanks. Brian?
Boy, some of this has already been said. I just had written a few thoughts down as we went through this. Of course, this is not ideal. How could anybody think this is ideal? That's not ideal for anybody out there. I know that it's astoundingly difficult. I would like to remind everybody out there that we are all facing our own individual challenges, and some of them are extremely unique and others are very common amongst us. But I think that we get through this more easily if we get through it together. And if we're attacking each other, that's just, it's not going to help. It does not help at all. So I understand some of the voices that were sort of voices of dissent, but I don't believe any teacher is sitting back trying to do this, whether they're going into the classroom every day or doing it from home and thinking this is a great gig right now, because it's not. It's incredibly hard. And for the parents, I know that it's hard too to manage what's going on at home with your kids and trying to do your work. But also keep in mind, there are also other parents out there right now that don't have work at all. And they're trying to figure out how they put food on the table and how they pay the bills. So maybe a broader understanding of what everybody is going through is in order. I know everybody's got it hard. Everybody's got it hard in different ways, but I think it's important that we keep that in mind. That's all.
Thank you, Brian. John Moulton?
Thanks, Debbie. Yeah, I appreciate the frustration some of the parents have of the situation we're in. The first thing I would say is I would urge them not to attack the teachers. The teachers are working really hard. If they feel the need to hold somebody responsible to take their frustration out on, that's what we're here at the board. We're the ones making this decision. So they should let the teachers do their job. And if they're unhappy with the decisions we're making, then obviously we're reachable by email and things like that. I would also say, this is an unusual situation for us in this generation in the pandemic, but it's not the first pandemic this country's ever been through. So there is actually precedence in history about how pandemics work and how they happen. And even not in a pandemic, a lot of us, myself included, are parents with kids in school that work. I'm still at work, as you can tell from the drop ceiling. I've been at work since 6 o'clock this morning. So I understand the challenge of what it's like to be a parent with kids in school, like Mr. Paff, and trying to balance work and being a parent and trying to teach them. Also grew up in a very rural area. So I was actually had correspondence classes for 2 years. And if you think it's hard to learn as a kid on Zoom with a teacher helping you, try it with a stack of books and just filling out pieces of paper and taking them to the mailbox every day to send them into DC. So it's tough, but people get through it. And I appreciate all the comments. I think everybody's doing a good job. I think we'll get through this. And I look forward to hopefully being in a better position in January.
Thank you, John. Okay, so I want to make another comment about kind of what everyone else has been saying about teachers. And, part of the reason I am on this board, I have been for 9 years now, and my time's going to be up pretty soon. But teachers make a difference in lives. They make a difference in my life. Numerous people that are on this meeting at the moment has made a difference in my son's life. And you guys are making a difference in it more so now than ever. So I don't want anyone feeling like they're not important, because they are. Parents are important too. We're all important. And as Brian said, we all need to just consider all people's experiences. Everyone is dealing with it in their own way. So anyway, I just want to make sure that we are kind to each other, as Christy said, and we are doing the best we can. And we are all here for the students. That's what it's all about, the students. And we know that. We're not here for ourselves. We're here for the students. Okay, with that said, board, I'm going to make a motion to, this is an action item. I am going to make a motion to approve extending tier 1 through to January 5th with the expectation that the waiver updates will be provided to us. The next meeting is October 22nd because of the fall break. And then we have November 12th. I'd like to see, basically, I know this is not part of my motion, sorry, but I'd like to see kind of like, well, we have a checklist, right? Here's the application. We have all of this done already. Here's where we're lacking. I'd like to kind of drill down to that if we could. Maybe not by October 22nd, but maybe by November, if that's possible. So that's my motion, board.
I'm seconding.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Forrest, was that motion clear enough? I mean, I made it kind of confusing.
No, very clear.
So your motion is that we will hear in early November our status regarding getting the waiver.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Where we're lacking, where we need, and potentially a timeline of how we can get there to get finished to be able to apply for that waiver. But the main part of my motion is to approve extending tier 1 from October 19th, which is supposed to end October 19th, to January 5th, which is the previous tier 2.
Right.
Ralph, do you even need that? Isn't this a direction item?
It's an action. It is an action item because we're changing a date on an item that was already approved by the board through action. So we do need action in order to change previous action.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my motion made by David Crandall and seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
Aye.
Student Advisory?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 5-0. And again, thank you all. And just take care of it and hang in there with us. Okay. Next item is action B, restricting facilities use permits to limit the spread of coronavirus. Director Kelly.
Good evening, board. Matt Kelly, Director of Facilities and Transportation. Really, it's all there in the write-up. We had a couple management meetings where we discussed pros and cons of opening facilities, opening it full or just limiting it to certain groups, and we came to the conclusion that that by staying steady in what we're doing, it's just another way to support our parents and our staff of the hard work they have been doing, and not slide into a localized outbreak, which could, we're talking about these waivers and stuff like that. That could affect the waiver process. It could bump us up a little bit, and our waiver would be denied. So our recommendation is to completely limit or completely shut down all facilities use and facilities use permits moving forward until at least we're maybe we can put a date to it until the January date when we come back to school.
Now, thank you, Matt. So we talked about this before, so this is being brought back.
Correct. Yeah, we passed the resolution that basically gave you the ability to do what that staff's requesting you to do, and it's basically just saying no more facilities use. So that resolution gave you guys the power to do that, to make that decision right now.
And then this is the decision. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Board, any additional questions regarding this item? Christy?
Yeah, I have a question. My understanding when we discussed it before was we would be able to look at individual things and there'd be some kind of discernment between these different groups. So you're saying if I want to go play tennis as an example, I can't now until January?
No, you can. What we're saying is that we're not issuing facilities use permits. So you couldn't say, I want to rent your tennis courts and have a tennis tournament, but you can still go as an individual and play singles tennis with your friend. Does that make sense?
Yes, and if a family wants to go on a weekend and kick a soccer ball around on a field, they may.
Correct. Yes, all of our facilities are still open to the public. We're not closing our facilities. What we're saying is that we're not going to allow events or big group activities onto our facilities. Basically, what they do is a facilities user will come in, whether it's like YMCA or even our PTAs or our Pride would come in and say, hey, we want to use your facilities. We want to do a fundraiser. Or we want to have a basketball game, and right now we're saying no, we're not going to allow you to do that until we feel like the numbers are in a better spot where we can allow that to happen.
Okay, so it's large organized groups is what you're concerned about. Families or individuals that walking across the campus or shooting hoop or that kind of thing. Not a problem.
Not a problem, no, because they're they're really coming onto our facilities, and they're having to abide by the county rules. By issuing a facilities use, it really puts us in a position where we're saying we're having to monitor whether they're following the rules or not by issuing that facilities use permit.
And the swimming, I know swimming's come up before. Where's that?
So right now we passed the resolution. We did not really necessarily have the power to say, hey, no, you can't do that anymore. So we kept the swimming going, and the city is also running a day camp from the middle school in the evenings. So those two events would come to a conclusion as well.
It's just so sad with the funds that we so desperately need right now, some of that stuff, but I understand. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Well, and the city is not paying, so that we have that agreement with the city. So there's no revenue from the city events.
Okay, Christy, is that?
Yes, of course.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
I didn't know if you
Sorry.
had another
I should've-
response.
yeah, thank you.
That's okay. John Paff, any other questions?
No, this is very straightforward. We're taking away organized athletics and organized events, but that doesn't limit us from walking across the field. So straightforward. Thank you.
Good deal.
Brian?
Just a couple things. Director Kelly, when people go up to Facilitron to, like, say that's their first stop to check availability, is that how they'll find out, or what is that going to look like?
Yeah, they should. Even now, they're not able to make a reservation on Facilitron. So Facilitron would basically just block everyone out from making a reservation. And we can put in, we would put an announcement on there that says, until further notice, our facilities will not be for rent or to facilities use.
Okay, and then for swimming, I always forget the name of the organization. Is it Monterey Bay Swim Club? Is that?
Yes.
And I'm assuming they're already aware this is coming, right?
They are, I don't know. I don't think they are aware. I've not had a discussion with him. So it would be having a discussion with him and coming to a point where giving them a few days or another week and then shutting down the activity altogether.
Okay, all right. If I'm sure we'll know how that all plays out. I'm sure we would all appreciate to get an update, because it's been a long-standing relationship, and
right,
it's been mutually beneficial for everybody. It's sad that this is what has to be done, but it is what has to be done right now, especially if it impacts other things, as they're trying to put together the waiver and all that. So appreciate you doing what you're doing there. Hard choices, but necessary.
Right.
Okay. John Walton?
No questions.
Thank you. I didn't have any questions until Brian asked about the swim club. I recall us discussing that because of all the chlorine and stuff, that they were allowed to do their activity because of that. Is that not the case?
They were allowed to swim because the county opened up swimming pools to do lap swim. And in our discussions, when we looked at that, it's really hard for us to discern between, allowing the swim club to swim and do their activities, and then shut down for, some of our fundraising groups, like our PTAs. We really felt like it was not fair to some of our other groups that use our facilities to say, hey, yes to one and no to another. So I think in all fairness, we decided, we need to stick to what we believe we're doing is the right thing, and just kind of staying on track with what we're doing, and really limit those group activities.
And it doesn't matter if one swim group is playing water polo, say for instance, versus just I don't know what the swim club does. Do they just swim laps, or?
Yeah,
or
no, you wouldn't be under the guidelines. You wouldn't be able to play water polo. You be able to condition in lanes swimming for water polo. That's really the limit of what they can do.
Okay, so I guess that's kind of where I was getting at. So you would have to say no to the a water polo team or group because of
Yes.
that, right?
And we
'Cause
have.
it doesn't mean, right.
Yeah.
But if a group wanted to swim laps, it would be okay.
Per the county, yeah, it would be okay. The county says it's okay, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, this is open for public comment. If there are any, you can raise your hand. Lucretia Fiera.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Lucretia, and I am the mother of a student who attends Pacific Grove Middle School. She's an 8th grader, and she's been a part of the Monterey Bay Swim Club since she was 6 years old. She's now 13. My husband, Eric, has served on the Monterey Bay Swim Club Board of Trustees, and she also plays water polo for Monterey Bay United. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear so I could relay this information on to the other board members about what you are deciding tonight. It sounds like there's still some discussion. I'm a little confused between the conversation with our Madam President and Matt Kelly about what is allowed, not allowed in the pool as of now, moving forward. We know that the county has approved swimming as an activity for people. And obviously these little guys are people as well. And they have been swimming in your pool, I think since mid-June, if I remember correctly. I know that the swim club has made a priority of following all of the county regulations and guidelines as it pertains to wearing a mask upon setting foot on the campus, temperature checks before each and every practice, as well as submitting contact tracing forms at the end of each month, showing who they've been in contact with. And I think that things have been going really, really well. So I just don't understand how this activity cannot be approved through the district using your facility when they are following each and every protocol and procedure outlined by the county and doing a beautiful job at it. And I know that the students who are swimming are primarily Pacific Grove Unified School District students, and they are benefiting tremendously, not only from just some sort of social interaction with students in their age group and skill level, but also receiving the benefits of an hour or 2 hour physical activity of getting in the pool and swimming. And the students are 1 student per lane. And again, as I stated, they wear a mask on campus, leaving the campus, and they are also getting that temperature check and turning in that contact tracing form. So we just don't understand as an organization how this is not going to, how this is negatively affecting anything. Especially considering the low numbers that we have in Pacific Grove, the city of, and the fact that there's just so many benefits involved in the students participating in this daily activity.
Thank you. So coming back to that, Matt, I am hearing though that it depends on the activity they're doing, right? So you'll talk to, I'm asking, not telling. You'll talk to the director and make that understanding, and they'll still be able to use the pool as long as they're within the guidelines of the county.
They with this, if we pass what we passed tonight, they would not be able to use the pool
At all.
At all. It would be no different than a lot of the requests that we're getting from our PTAs, our Pride with drive-in movie theaters, you know, like a trunk or treat that they want to have. It is true. We get a lot of like, we have this plan. We're going to be socially distancing. We have, we're going to put all the right measures in place. What it really comes down to for us as the school district and allowing that to happen is that now we buy into and we have to oversee to make sure that they are putting in these guidelines, because if someone does get sick in a facilities under a facilities use agreement, ultimately they could come back to the organization, the PTA, and then also back to the school district as well. Now, I know there's a lot of questions on on the liability and stuff like that, but this is stuff that hasn't been tried yet in court, and there is a certain liability for that on us again. And then we come back to the localized outbreaks. If we have a localized outbreak, we're really doing a huge disservice to our community and our teachers and our parents who are we just heard over the last hour who are struggling through this. And if we have to extend not going back to school because we're allowing facilities use, that would be a really bad thing.
Okay. Thank you.
I need to understand that last part. See, the trunk or treat or other things are new things, Matt. So
yeah,
that doesn't feel hard to say no to for me. If
mm-hmm.
These are proposals, we'd like to do them, well, you're going to have to wait. But when you have an ongoing relationship, as Brian was bringing up earlier, and I don't see that somebody would have to stand guard there every night. But what I'm trying to understand from the last thing you said, that if we don't have this kind of hard shutdown, then our waiver would be denied for going back to school. Is that what you're implying?
No, what I'm implying is that you threaten the localized with when you have group activity, you increase the risk of a localized outbreak, whether that's 10, 20, 30 people. That would have a negative impact on the waiver, because not only do they look at your county overall numbers, but they look at your local numbers as well. So if your local numbers are high, it wouldn't be any different than if we had a localized outbreak of the flu when we're in school. If we hit a certain number, we have to shut that school down. That's a localized outbreak. So it would be the same thing. So what we're saying is that there is somewhat of a risk by allowing group activity, and there is a possibility of that happening. We're not going to say it is going to happen, and people are going to come up and they're going to say, yeah, we're going to have the 6-foot social distancing. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, but there's still a risk for that happening. And so we're being conservative on our decision on this, on the facility's use of it, and moving ahead with what we've already been doing to keep those numbers down. We're, like someone said, we're only at 40. We're at 40 because we're doing a great job of this. We're taking health before everything else.
I understand that, but if these kids have been swimming since June, and this started in March, and here we are, starting October, and all of a sudden we say, well, we view this now as dangerous, where they've been there.
I don't think we're saying we're viewing it as dangerous. We never had the mechanism in place to say, no, we can't do that because of the Civic Center Act. Now, if you guys choose to, the board chooses to, we could still have swimming going on and say no to everything else. That's completely within the resolution that you passed.
Okay.
And the city, we could still have the city, and sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
The same is true with the city as well.
Christy, we're still in public comment. I'm going to take one more. I have one more hand up, and then we're going to come back again to us. Okay. This says LJ iPhone.
Hi, sorry, Elliot Hazen again here. I just want to start by saying, teachers, we appreciate you. Administrators, board, we appreciate you. This sucks for us all. Just want to start with that. Regarding swimming, I understand the need for caution, but we're talking about a physical activity that our kids are frankly not getting nearly as much as they should. So if it is a risk, if it's a risk to the county, if it's a risk to the kids, yes, we should be discussing shutting it down. But if it's political or if it's due to fear of lawsuit, I think we should be a little bit smarter about it and how we're going to try to do our best to take care of our kids. I thought it was all about the kids when we started this discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Christy, do you have anything else that you want to continue on?
Well, I'm struggling with the swimming part, and I appreciate Matt saying that maybe that could go with that relationship that's been in place. I mean, I certainly don't think the football team should be out there, and I get that. That's real clear to me, but I do hear that, I mean, kids need someplace sometimes to be able to go and do certain things. And if we've been doing it and then to stop doing it, and I understand this abundance of caution, but I also feel like we're getting a little carried away here.
You want to make a motion, Christy?
Well, the board, everybody already spoke, right? Well, what I would move for is that I would move forward to restrict facilities use permits to limit the spread of coronavirus, but still allow swimming because of that longstanding relationship to take place. I don't know if anybody else agrees. That's what
I would just amend that by saying swimming, contactless swimming. That work? Okay, that is a motion, and I'm going to second, but I want the other board members just to have another chance to speak if they do. John Paff?
I wasn't clear on what the city has going at the middle school right now.
They have an evening, I don't want to call it day. It's like an evening camp. They're running an evening camp, and that's allowed by the county.
And that goes until daylight savings time?
I believe it's just about over. I apologize. I didn't look up when that reservation was over.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
Well, I'm curious if there's any way, and I know there's not an immediate answer to this, but Dr. Porras or Director Kelly might have some insight on it. As it relates to swimming, is there some way to consult with legal and get some sort of, what's it called, and to have us indemnified against anything like that? Is that something that we can look at? I don't know anything about the law, so I'm sure we'd have to get legal involved in it, and then that will also cost money. But I know that swimming has been a big deal. So anyway, I'll stop babbling on and let you answer the question.
Yeah, we already have. We've had our terms and conditions updated for COVID, just so we're prepared for when we do open back up with everything. So we do have that protection. Again, what my claim was that this is just an unknown. Everything's just unknown. So we don't know whether this is a huge liability or just a small liability to the school district. But we did have them look it over, and they have updated our terms and conditions.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, just for clarification, Trustee Dawson, your reference was for the Monterey Bay Swim Club, right? And this wasn't for swimming in general, but for the club that's been operating there already.
Yes.
Okay. John Bolton?
Well,
anything else?
I support the recommendation from staff as presented, and I appreciate that we have longstanding relationships, but I think if we start cherry picking and making exceptions, then we're showing favoritism. How do we, stand and say, we like swimming in this club more than this other club? I'm not comfortable with that. So if we make the motion to support the staff's recommendation as is, I'd support it. If we do anything different, I'll vote against it.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that too, John. The only reason why I say yes about the swimming, and it's not just it's because of the contactless activities that they do and the chlorine and all that. But I'm not a scientist, so, or a doctor. Dr. Porras, do you have any feeling on this? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think you were a lawyer in your other life, so.
Yeah, don't accuse me of that.
Not that Matt doesn't, but I know, I just want to know if you have any feelings about it.
Yeah, I think the difficulty here is that I think Trustee Walton hit on it. It's just there are a lot of little exceptions that can start creeping in very quickly, and I think Director Kelly did a really good job trying to be consistent and err on the side of safety. I don't think unreasonably so, but I think we do get a lot of people that ask for a lot of things, and general public doesn't oftentimes see the number of requests that come in. It's not easy to be the bad guy and say no all the time. And I think what Director Kelly is trying to do is set up a standard to say, right now, under these conditions, for the safety of our students and looking to get back, we just need to say no right now. And that's inclusive of the clubs that have been here to be fair and consistent. And so I think it's appreciated because it supports the work that we're doing as an administrative team. However, if the board wants to move forward, right now you have a motion and a second. So unless the motion is withdrawn, you need to pursue forward. So
I'm going to withdraw my second, actually. Sorry, Christy.
I'd like to amend it and second it. If
Okay,
that's
cool.
okay, Christy. I'd like to amend it to include any existing contracts that are in place. So that would allow PG City to continue until basically November without any problem, and Mark to continue MBSC until such time as it has to get renegotiated anyway.
What's MBSC?
Monterey Bay Swim Club.
Oh, okay.
Is that a year-round program?
Yes.
Okay.
Christy,
And why
do you
did you say
accept that?
until November, John?
For the day camp, Christy.
Yeah, it's coming up soon because they can't hang out, at 6:30 at night. It's dark.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Do you accept that amendment, Christy?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion to approve the restricting facilities use permit with the exception of the current contracts up until November.
Before we vote on that, can I
Is
get
that
a
correct?
clarification?
No.
That
please?
is not correct.
That is not correct.
Okay,
Sorry.
then you go ahead and summarize it, but Brian has a question.
Well, when we talk about are we talking about, so right now, it sounds like we're talking about the day camp and Monterey Bay Swim Club, who have existing agreements for facilities use. Are there others too, or are there other parties that could claim they too have ongoing,
Well,
an
That's the
ongoing
only
relationship?
Those are the only two.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the only two that were approved because county rules didn't allow any other two.
Okay.
Yeah, and last day for the city is October 29th.
Yeah, so that one, we just are done.
That would end up, and the swimming would continue on.
Correct.
Yes.
So I just want to throw a few more extra words in here. It makes me nervous, but I get it. And I think back to when Monterey Bay Swim Club came to us, and they really did a great job of rolling out how they were going to do this. So they have demonstrated, although I haven't gone down there because I'm not usually one that hangs out at public pools or private pools, any pool. Swim very well. I can't swim. Anyway, plus they're doing what they said they would do. And it is an ongoing relationship. So I would support it. It still makes me nervous.
Okay, John Paff, can you please
Yes.
say your motion, your amended motion?
Sure. The resolution as addressed with the addition of maintaining existing two contracts, one to Monterey Bay Swim Club and one to the City of Pacific Grove.
Okay, so Dr. Forrest, this is John making the motion now? Or is he just amended? He amended her.
He made a friendly amendment to Christie's motion. She accepted it, and then he seconded it. So
okay. So who's going to second? John?
John said he would amend it and then to second it.
Yes.
Okay.
So
okay. So
ready to vote.
So sorry, Mandy. I hope you understood. Okay. Motion made by Christy Dawson, seconded by John Paff. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
No.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Yes.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Trustee Walton?
No.
Student advisory?
Aye.
even though student advisory did not get to join in that conversation.
I don't think I had much to add. You guys covered everything.
We did? Okay. I'd be surprised if we didn't. Okay. Okay, thank you. That passes 3-2-2. Okay, moving on. Resolution. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Resolution number 1062, proclaiming Week of the School Administrator. Well, isn't this timely?
Indeed.
So we do this every year, and as rightly so. And I believe in May and is it October? We recognize the teachers, the credentialed, and then also the classified staff. So this is the administrators' time, and you were all teachers at one point, so you definitely have been there. I would say around the block. Board, do I have a volunteer to read the motion or the resolution?
Can I?
Sure.
Please,
Go ahead,
Brian.
Brian.
Because it's very short.
Okay. Week of the School Administrator, whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and the more than 6.7 million students it serves, and whereas school administrators are lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education and providing quality service for student success, it's paramount for the profession, and the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, district and county staff, and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And now therefore be it resolved by the governing board of Pacific Grove Unified School District that resolution 1062 be adopted to observe October 12 through 16, 2020 as the Week of the School Administrator, to commend all school leaders for the contributions they make to successful student achievement.
Well read.
Nicely done.
Yes.
Okay. This is Director Mankey's item, but I consider you part of this, so that's why I just talked over you. But if you have anything you want to say, please do.
President Crandall, thank you very much. I appreciate that you moved forward with this, and I appreciate all my fellow administrators. We have the best team ever.
Yes. Yay. Woo. Okay. Thank you, board. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that we adopt resolution number 1062 proclaiming Week of the School Administrator.
I will second. Okay, so I have a motion by Christy Dawson, second by Debbie Crandall. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall,
Aye.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
Trustee Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Walton,
Aye.
Student Advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we couldn't do any of this without you guys, so thank you. And I believe Trustee Walton, you're gonna need to leave, right? Thank you. We have a quorum, so thank you. Okay.
John.
Get home safe.
Trying to move this along here. Action item D is approval of actuarial study of retiree health liabilities under GASB or Government Act Standards Board 7475. This is a study of how we are saving and spending our funds, but I don't know if I have that right. So Assistant Superintendent Chimbin-Dib, if you would please correct me or give us a summary of what this is.
Thank you, President Crandall.
I guess it's change of pace. We're going to talk about actual study, something much more fun.
Oh, really?
Just by a couple of things, because by law, you know, this governmental accounting standard board 7475, as a school district, we have to do it every year, but not every other year is not as extensive. What we call a rollover, you know, with assumptions we can roll into the next year with some minor adjustments. So this is a full year. So next year will be a semi-final, semi-comprehensive, because we roll over some data. But just because by law we have to go over this, or I'll just give some highlights. But before I talk about this, I just want to qualify saying that this is a report by Total Compensation Systems. It's not our report. So I'm not an actuarial, and so I'll try to do just bring some highlights. Originally, we never invited them to present is because they charged us $1,900. But before I realized this, that this is Zoom, you know, they could have presented this. It's too late. The calendar is already full.
They would have only charged us $1,000 then.
Yeah. Well, actually, they said they could have presented this without charging us because it's Zoom meeting. But, you know, already last week when I realized this, thinking, oh, it's too late. Their calendar is already booked. But anyway, so real quickly, it's on page 27. Actually, you know what? Let's see. It's 28. We do it pay as you go, just to summarize it, because of the actual cost of our retirees costs, certificated, classified, management, and confidential, has been included in our budget every year. So we do it what we call pay as you go. We don't have a pre-funded program. We had it in Fund 20, but the board has decided to, you know, that included in the pay as you go is sufficient, and that's what we have. So it's on page 2, is $361,392 for 1920. Let's see. I think the liability, I won't go into detail. Just the next page is on page 3. Just to bring to your attention, we have a couple of adjustments, but they do not change the bottom line or the result of the study. On page 29 of the board packet, under confidential, if you look at the benefit types provided, we need to, the correct type should be just medical only. So does not include medical, dental, just medical only. So tomorrow when we post it on the agenda or on our website, it should show only medical only. The next slight adjustment is under certificated district cap. It says pre-65, $3,000 per year. The dollar amount is correct, but we want to say active cap because we follow, and that number could change. It's actually, you know, like for 2021 is $3,350, but since this is for 1920 fiscal year, $3,000 per year is still correct, but we just want to change the language to say active cap. So just real minor adjustments. The next one, just to point to attention, is on, let's see, it's on page, which is good things, page 10 of the report, which is page 36 of the board packet. The total liability for us, OPEB liability, which is other post-employment benefits, went from 10 million, a little bit over $10 million to 7.6 because the previous assumption based on a higher retiree cost for certain groups. One of the groups of our retirees actually was carrying a data from outer years, prior years, and that number has changed. So they kind of reduce our unfunded liability. So the actual company told me, don't go into too much and not go into too many details. I guess they, other than themselves, they can already explain a lot of this. This is where I'm going to stop and ask if you have any questions.
Thank you. So basically what we're approving is the cost, first of all, that it it cost us, which we have to pay already. So, and we're proving that the method that whatever we're doing is okay.
Yes. And then we, compliance of the law, we do a report and we submit to the board for approval.
Okay, thank you. Christy, any further questions? I see you shaking your head. Okay,
Not at this
John,
time,
any?
thank you. I muted.
Okay.
No,
John
I did
Pat?
not. My questions were answered already. Thank you very much.
Great. Brian?
No, this made my brain hurt. I read it a couple of times, and I just was astounded, really. It made me happy that I don't know any actuarials, and there's probably a reason why I don't, because I think they actually enjoy creating reports like this. I did want to point out, just as an observation, that there is a double acronym in this document. And I don't know if anybody else caught this, but there is, I'm looking it up here again, because they created one acronym, which is the OPEB, but then there is the TOL, which is the total OPEB liability. And I think it's a new, like, that's a high watermark in the acronym world. So I don't know if they should be condemned or praised for that, but, and that's all I've got.
I have
Okay.
not heard from them.
Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment. See none. Bring it back. I will make the motion to approval of the actuarial study of retiree health liabilities under GASB 7475.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion by David Crandall, second by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Paff?
Did we ask for a student advisory opinion on this?
I do it at the end.
Okay.
Well, I didn't ask her opinion though. Gabby, do you have an opinion?
Thank you for your consideration, but no, I do not have any input or any strong opinion on this, but thank you.
Just so you know, when we're not in COVID, we have a really nice big conference room with a big table, and you have your own chair and your own name and everything, and you're right in front of us. So I'm sorry, I keep forgetting you.
No
Okay.
worries.
Thank you. Okay, Mandy, sorry. I said
So back on it. I mean, yes, I vote for it. I do want to just one more quick comment, which I can come back to, Debbie. So
after.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said aye, John?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Student advisory?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. That passes 4-0. Yes, John.
Well, one of the more interesting things on it really is going back and looking at their track record. Our current liability was $320K, and 3 years ago they said our current liability would be $520K in 3 years. So this is a very conservative report, which is kind of positive news for the district overall.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Sam, for the report. Okay, next item is action discussion E, approval of memorandum of understanding with Monterey County Superintendent of Schools and Pacific Grove Unified School District. It's the Quality Rating and Improvement System, or also known as QRIS program, and Pacific Grove Adult Education's licensed child care facility. And if I understand this correctly, this is a grant through the consortium regarding supplement help for COVID related, I guess, issues, and to allow extra services to lower income students.
So yes,
That was really good, Debbie. Most of it.
Most of it.
So-
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Barbara Martinez. I'm principal of Pacific Grove Adult Education, and I oversee the state preschool as well as the licensed childcare facility, in addition to our co-op preschools. And I want to apologize to the board for something. I've been in charge of the adult school for 7 years now, and upon learning the new position and overseeing the childcare and the licensed state preschool, I haven't brought this MOU before you before, and we've been in it for a few years now, probably since 2017. So I want to say, from going now forward, I'm going to inform the board every year of the income that's generated as part of this grant. And I apologize for not bringing it to you beforehand, but I'm going to get everybody up to speed and hopefully moving forward, keep you informed. I can't say enough of the Quality Matters program, but first let me just bring forth the recommendation. I am going to recommend that the board review and approve this MOU with the Monterey County Superintendent of Schools, with MCOE, for the QRIS rating system. And I'll give you a little background. When I first came to the district, to the adult school, and found that Diane Barone was just doing a fantastic job with state preschool and working with MCOE, and me becoming more familiar with First Five and Bright Beginnings and all of the services that are provided for low-income families that give the supports, I jumped right in. And then opening the licensed childcare facility, working with Megan Mattioni and Lori Ramirez with MCOE, they just provided such a great program, not just support for teachers and families, but for me as an administrator, so that I could be a better leader. I jumped in and we went full force. So the first MOU is in support of the licensed childcare facility. And a little bit about what Quality Matters is. It's a program, and it's called a Quality Rating and Improvement System. It gives early care education programs, state preschools and licensed childcare facilities the support they need to provide the high quality experiences for children 0 to 5 years old. We do support all of our preschools, including our co-ops and our special education through collaboration. But in jumping into this program, it was to start with licensed facilities, low income. So it was for the state preschool, licensed childcare facilities, and also for home daycares, licensed home childcare facilities. And they use the statewide standards for the early learning, and they give their ratings based on those standards. They work really hard with parents to provide them tools and resources. They work with our staff, and they work with the administration. And in return, we provide them with data. We provide them with the assessments for our students, and our teachers register with the state registry system up and down the state, so that the state can collect data on what the state needs to be able to provide these facilities the resources they need to come better at what they do. So it's a complete win-win. I can't say enough about what I've learned and able to give my staff the resources they need and what they can give their students. So basically the MOU is for the first item for discussion is this is for an income in addition to the first year they give you a rating, and they give you $1,000 for your program. The second year they give you a rating. They use a rubric based on the standards and everything you give them. I believe we got $2,000. This $920 is an addition to what they're giving us this year due to COVID, just in response to COVID. And it's all part of the QRIS block grant. And you know, we're just going to continue our relationship with MCOE and just accept the gift that they're giving us to be able to participate in this program. So we're going to ask that you review and approve this MOU for the state preschool, for the licensed childcare facility.
Yeah, the preschool's next.
Yes.
But yeah, that was a much better explanation that I gave. So thank you. And I don't have any further questions. Christy, do you have any further questions? No? Okay. John Path?
No.
Brian?
Thank you, Director Martinez, for being so thorough.
Brian?
No questions, just to thank you and to acknowledge that, you wear so many hats, Barbara, and I know we all appreciate all the hard work that you do, and this is just another fine example of that hard work. So thank you.
Definitely. Okay, this is open for public comment. I have one hand. Carolyn Swanson.
Thank you, President Crandall. Thank you for the topic. This is an interesting topic. I've never seen it in a packet before. It sounds like it's because it hasn't been in a packet before. And I know there's another MOU coming after it that's similar. So I'm just going to ask this question now. I was curious if Director Martinez could give us an example, something tangible that I can kind of put in my brain of what she's learned, been able to glean from this in exchange for the data of the kids. And then if she could talk a little bit more about what that exchange of data looks like. Is it something that maybe we need to have the parents of the children notified? I'm sure that they're not giving out the names of the kids or anything like that that's protected data. But I just kind of wanted to know more about the nuts and bolts of what exactly this exchange is looking like. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Carolyn, for your question. That's a great question. It was one that I couldn't wait to jump on. So as far as the data is concerned, so the county offers us a consultant that meets with our teachers regularly. We do the ASQ assessment and the ages and stages assessments with our students. Everything is no names, actually. It's just a number of enrollment, basically. Teachers having collaborative conversations about what they need to know and be able to do in order to move forward with making sure their students, their children are ready for kindergarten. And then also providing parents with resources. For example, just with me alone, I'm attending meetings with the Monterey County office regularly, like monthly, just talking about response to COVID and their response to reopening schools and getting our licensed childcare facilities to our essential workers open, making sure that we had the resources necessary to respond to any family who might have been in contact with somebody who had exposure to COVID. Working with our facilities, making sure that Matt Kelly and his team had created all of our outside hand washing stations and making sure that our sick rooms were up to code and making sure that we had all of the necessary protocols in place so that we could be safe to reopen so that our parents could get back to work. That's just one aspect, but related to curriculum, making sure that all of our curriculum is aligned with the foundations for preschools and making sure we have articulation with our elementary kindergarten teachers in what our children in preschool should know and be able to do by the time that they exit. That's just a couple of things, Carolyn.
Thank you, Barbara.
Sure.
Okay, no other questions. I'm going to bring it back to the board. Unless there's questions, board, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve this item. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, if that's okay.
Okay, seconded.
Okay. Motion to approve by Debbie Crandall, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall.
Aye.
Trustee Dawson.
Aye.
Trustee Path.
Aye.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 4-0. Our next item is actually, if I am correct on this one, is just what you said, except this is for the state preschool and it's a little bit more in the fund.
Right. So yes, I'm going to recommend that the the board review and approve the MOU for the state preschool with the Monterey County Superintendent of Schools QRIS rating system. They are in their 4th year now with doing this, and Diane Barone has created a lighthouse model school for a state preschool outdoor classroom. She's actually been asked by the QRIS team in the Monterey County office to provide in-service and webinars on how she creates her Reggio classroom and her loose parts curriculum. And so they've actually had a rating system of 4. Last year, I believe they were granted $5,000. This year, it is a total of $2,160 of the block grant. And we're just going to continue as long as we can to continue this relationship with the County Office of Ed for professional development.
Great. Good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I have no further questions on this one. Christy?
No, thank you.
Okay. John Path? I don't need to say that because you're the only John now. No further questions, John? Okay. Brian?
No questions. Oh, sorry, maybe student advisory has a question.
Oh, yes.
No
Student advisory. No
Okay.
questions. Okay. Thank you, Brian.
I would like to move then for approval of the memorandum of understanding with the Monterey County Superintendent of Schools and Pacific Grove Unified School District Quality Rating and Improvement System, also known as the QRIS program. Cool.
I second.
Okay, pause those motions. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Oh, sorry.
For the record. So I wasn't the one that forgot this time. I'm just saying.
My bad.
We're moving towards 10. He's trying to expedite.
Yes. Okay, there's no public comment, so I'll bring it back. I have a motion to approve by Brian Swanson, second by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Path?
Aye.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That passes 4-0. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, so it is 11 to 10. And we have 2 items I think we can get through, but so we don't rush because I think we might have a conversation on the future agenda. Board, I'm going to make a motion to extend the meeting till 10 minutes after 10.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Debbie Crandall to extend the meeting to 10 minutes after 10. Brian Swanson, second. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall?
Aye.
Trustee Dawson?
Aye.
Trustee Path?
No.
Trustee Swanson?
Aye.
Student advisory?
Aye.
Okay, this passes 3-0. I just don't want to rush. So
3-1.
3-1.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that passes 3-1. So moving on. Board calendar future meetings. Dr. Porras, I don't think we made any changes during this discussion, have we?
For the future, the board calendar item,
Yeah.
we do have a draft calendar for January through June, so we do need to take action on this item.
Okay.
There's tentative meeting dates, and obviously the topics and everything underneath them will morph a little as we move forward, but we wanted to get the dates out there. Also wanted to note that the superintendent goals have been removed, and will be moved when we determine board goals, as we discussed last time. So I wanted to make the notation of those 2 changes. So the board does need to take action on this item.
Okay. Board, any comments? Going once?
For me.
Okay. Public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Bring you back. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the calendar as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion by David Crandall, second by John Paff. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Crandall.
Aye.
Trustee Dawson.
Aye.
Trustee Paff.
Aye.
Trustee Swanson.
Aye.
Student Advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes 4-0. Okay, future agenda items. I didn't think I heard any future items that weren't already on here. But we did have a comment about putting some dates on here during individuals addressing to the board. And I will say that we have actually put dates on a lot of these. That's why the list is shorter. We did that last meeting, I believe, or the meeting before.
Yeah.
And we do have fall on the SELPA. Does that fall is going to work, or do we need to put a different date on that?
I think what we were going to do is to check in with SELPA to see if they were able to do a presentation, because it was going to be done by SELPA. And I apologize. I don't want to put Director Davies on the spot, but I'm not sure if what progress we have with that. And let me try to unmute her. There she goes.
Yes, we can definitely work on scheduling something with SELPA.
Okay, but do you think that it says fall, but do you think between like October, November?
Yes, we can do it.
You think so? Okay, so we'll leave it as fall then. Is that okay, Dr. Forrest?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll leave it as fall, but we'll obviously have to have a date on it when it comes on the agenda, and I guess that's when it'll be. Thank you. Then the utility bills, I think John Walton really wanted this on here. He asked for the discussion. I think this could yes, John.
May I interject here?
Yes.
Song, did you not say you had started this in 2018-19? A full year in 2018-19 is a full year. We don't have to have last year, this year.
Song is wanting to speak. Sorry, she's wanting to answer, I think. Go ahead, Song.
I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So we can include this presentation, utility costs for 18-19, 19-20 on October 22nd, the next board meeting, when we bring the budget revisions, because we have the data we've been tracking that by usage as well as costs. So we can do that. The only thing is Trustee Walton separately had asked whether we could go back 10 years. We look at the records that we have in the warehouse. By law, we actually only are required to retain records for utilities for 3 years, but we have been doing it for 5 years. So even if we wanted to go back and create some data, we cannot, because the last year that we have it to get the data is 2015-16. But unfortunately, in terms of compilation of the reports, the spreadsheets, we only have it started in 18-19. So unfortunately, Trustee Walton's not here. What is the direction? I mean, I can present it next board meeting, 18-19, 19-20, because that's what we have. And
perfect.
Obviously, we don't have that yet.
Perfect. 18-19, 19-20 gets us started, and then it becomes just, you know, a one footnote somewhere along the way in the future.
Okay. Okay, so we put the October 22nd date on that for the next meeting. Great. Thank you. Sorry I interrupted you, John. Okay, I'm going up from the bottom. Sorry. Board request for teacher housing. I know John Walton is on the committee with the city, so we'll leave that for next time and discuss that with him. I don't know that we even need that item anytime soon, because I don't think there's so much update from him on that. But we'll find out next meeting. Member of the public, for the dual language program. This item we have discussed before. We also took it off the agenda and then was asked to put it back. Do we have an idea of how we want to handle this?
Well, I think during times of COVID that we have right now, it's certainly something that I think we need to put off until school resumes and there'd be a conversation.
Yeah. And just for the record, that is why we put, excuse me, a lot of to be determined. Sorry. Got something in my throat. So could we take this? I don't want to take it off, but can we say March?
Why don't we put it on March 18?
Yeah.
Good date.
Can we do that? March 18?
Sure.
We can change it, but at least it has a date.
Sure.
Okay, and board, any other items that you want to discuss or put on here? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Dr. Porras, anything that you caught on to that you want to put on?
No, Madam President, I think we're good.
Okay. Public comment, Carolyn Swanson.
Good evening again, Carolyn Swanson. Did you say that you were going to put the waiver on as an agenda item, the discussion of it, maybe the actual application or something like that?
Presented in COVID analysis.
Yeah, we're getting that is on our agenda every time.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing no other public comment. We'll bring it back. There's no vote needed on this. It's information discussion. I think we decided on all those and no further items. And look at that. It's 9:58.
There you go. That's
Hey.
why Path voted no, because he knew.
Well, John Paff has been there before, I think. Anyway, going, we're not going to go over, so we're good. Anything else that we need to talk about, Dr. Porras?
No, Madam President, I think we're good.
Forget anything. Okay. As always, thank you to the 40 people hanging in there with us.
Whoa!
And thank you again and again and again and again to all the staff and the hard work and everything, and appreciate everybody's patience with all this. Take care
and enjoy
take care of yourself. Be kind to everyone and yourself. And we'll see you on the 22nd. Enjoy your fall break. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Adios.
Bye.
Oh, Trustee Swanson.
That's
I like
great.
it.